戦争は変わった。一つの時代が終わり、俺たちの戦争は終わった。
War has changed. It's no longer about nations, ideologies, or ethnicity. It's an endless series of proxy battles fought by mercenaries and machines. War and its consumption of life has become a well-oiled machine. War has changed. Verified soldiers carry algorithmic arms, manipulate social influence, AI enhance and regulate their timelines. Memetic control, information control, emotion control, battlefield control. Everything is monitored and kept under control. War has changed. The age of deterrence has become the age of control, all in the name of averting catastrophe from weapons of mass destruction. And he who controls the battlefield controls history. War has changed. And when the battlefield is under total control, war becomes routine.
Think outside the cage.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is April 13th, 2026. We are live to tape on episode 931. And today, magic, mythos, and MAGA. Signing on from Off the Grid, Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy Basil, and you are not crazy.
And my name is Gonz, at Face Like the Sun, director of the Age of Deceit films, author of Archetypalism, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, live to tape from the metaverse to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. It's Monday.
Gary, what day is it? Ow, Monday.
It's National Scrabble Day for all you Scrabble heads out there. It's National Make Lunch Count Day. So hopefully everybody's lunch really counted. And of course, also it's National Peach Cobbler Day. So bust out that peach cobbler, everybody.
Not a whole lot going on today, huh?
Well, Jefferson's birthday, there's that. Thomas Jefferson's birthday.
Yeah.
And then I think in 2017, the U.S. struck Afghanistan, the mother of all bombs. You remember that one?
Oh, the first Moab. Well, that's interesting because I believe that was the first Moab dropped. And I believe that it was in March that the second Moab dropped. We've only dropped 2 of those, I think.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. So that's an interesting anniversary.
Mhm.
Is that which one is on the Canary Cry calendar? Is there anything on the Canary Cry calendar?
Nothing is on the calendar, which is why
somebody on the text message text message list sent a text message today and says, Happy Blockade Day.
Okay. All right.
Blockade Day that, brings us into the new world order. So that's kind of cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Build a wall, build a blockade. It's just all building back better. The whole thing.
Yeah, it really is. They are missing. Okay, not going to get into that quite yet. Yes. Well, hope everybody's weekend was good. I was in a lot of pain and my foot, and so I pretty much just laid in bed the whole time, which is very hard to do when you've got 7 baby emus and 2 adult emus and goats and chickens and all that kind of stuff. Thankfully, the Lord brought a sweet angel to help me take care of the animals.
Was it Flippy?
A couple of sweet angels. No, but if, the devil's always looking for our weak points, right? Well, you know how this goes. The adversary, he prowls like a lion looking for ways to devour
us. Yes.
God's children. And so he's always looking for a weakness. And if there ever were a weakness that would get your best buddy Basil to buy into the humanoid robot, Optimus helper, it would be like for ranch hand purposes, considering what they're training Optimus to do, fold clothes, wash laundry, that kind of stuff. I think feeding some goats might be that's a pretty easy one. It's probably a pretty easy case study to get Optimus out on the homestead to do some of the least, well, not that there's even anything wrong with those chores. They're just hard to do when you got a bum foot. So
I'm just waiting for some kind of priest to come to your door and offer you kangaroo legs to replace the damaged foot there.
A technocratic beast system priest,
Techno reverend, yeah, something.
cyberneticist, something like
We
that.
heard you wanted kangaroo legs back in the day, sir. We got them for you.
Yeah, that's definitely on my permanent record. They've
is.
been collecting our data for a long time, and
Yeah.
they certainly have it on my psychological risk profile. Once
Vulnerabilities.
said
legs.
on an episode of a podcast, might be interested in geoengineered kangaroo legs. And those things tend to come around. That's kind of the whole point.
Mhm.
Let's see here. Anything else? How was your weekend gone? You good? Did you fight the power?
Little groggy. Yeah, I don't know what was going on. I had one of those startling nightmares, when you sleep and dream and you
Ooh.
and no need to discuss details, but it was very accusatory. I'm being accused of a lot of stuff, and
The
it's
accuser.
interesting. Yeah, the accuser accuses.
comes
Very
proud.
interesting.
The accuser accuses.
Yeah, and it was almost like a sci-fi scene where everywhere I turned, every person I ran into started pointing the finger at me and accusing me of stuff and like all these things you did wrong and all that. It was very weird. And I woke up Sunday morning very groggy and had to go to church and lead worship and all that, and very groggy throughout the whole thing. My voice was cracking on the stage. It was not a great Sunday, but it was another Sunday, so got through
I
it.
had a really weird weekend of dreams too. One of them was I was just cruising around, and I think I went to like a fast food place or something, or just walking down the street. I had some people with me in my dream, and then suddenly the earth started to shake. It was a earthquake, and I go, "Oh my gosh, let's run into this McDonald's or something to hide from the earthquake."
Let's run into the McDonald's. That's McDonald's dream engineering, planting some dream advertising going on. Were you hungry for
I don't know
like
if it's McDonald's, but it was, it was like a fast food place, and which is the opposite of what you're supposed to do in an earthquake. You don't go running into a building. But I go into this building, and as I'm trying to escape the earthquake, the earth opens up.
Oh boy.
And this huge fissure, and then the whole building starts sinking and falling into the pit. And I very
McDonald's would sink to the pit.
I very specifically had the thought, like, oh, this is it. This is the end of the world. It's real. It's happening. And I kind of just had this like moment of like, oh wow, it's actually happening, and kind of just like
as you
just
fall into the
accepted it, I was like, oh my gosh, it was right. This is how it all ends. And
That's
I was
interesting.
like getting swallowed into this pit in this earthquake, like, wow, it's actually real.
Was it Saturday night by any chance?
It could have been. It very much. Well, yeah, because last night was Sunday night. Yeah, it was Saturday night.
Okay, so that's when I had my dream, and I had this. I didn't have the earth swallowing me up, but along with the accusatory thing in my dream, there were people saying like, "You've been saying it the whole time, and here it is." So that's really bizarre that we both kind of had like, it was like a, like this thing of like, you've been pointing these things out, and now here it is. And there is very strange, very strange. Okay, all right.
Well,
we'll just
that kind of fits a little bit with some of the stories of this weekend, Gonz. That idea that we've been calling it, and then the things come to fruition, and suddenly everybody's an expert, even though we've been talking about it for a while. So, anyways, I guess it's about time we jump into some stories. What do you say?
Let's do it. Let's start off with Jesus Trump.
We will launch a new age.
Variety.com is carrying the story here. Trump deletes post with image depicting himself as Jesus after backlash. This was all over my timeline last night. And, you know, I try not to hop on X too much over the weekend. A couple things here and there, but then, you know, I put the phone down. I got stuff to do. But as soon as I hop back on, all I saw was Trump is Jesus. And I thought, okay, well, we'll see. And then went to Truth Social. Sure enough, there he is depicted as Jesus. But he took it down this morning. And Variety carries the story here.
There's an interesting double side to this, because I'm looking at the thing by Variety, and we're going to hear why they're so upset about this. But everybody in the online space was upset about it for an entirely different reason that I imagine Variety does not report on. But let's find out.
They try to report on some different angles here, but you know how these mainstream platforms are. They just quote people's X posts and stuff.
Well, I say that because the headline image that they use has cut out the part that a lot of people are freaked out about. So
yes, we'll talk about that. President Donald Trump's Truth Social account removed an image depicting him as a Christ-like figure after the post generated a wave of outrage from those across the political spectrum, including some conservatives who deemed it blasphemous. The White House did not immediately respond, yada, yada, yada. Caitlin Collins, after the image was deleted, Trump told reporters, quote, he thought he was depicted as a doctor in the image. We'll see the clip of that in a second. Late Sunday evening, Trump posted an apparently AI-generated photo of himself dressed as Jesus, healing a sick man as doctors and members of the military watch in adoration, with the U.S. flag, bald eagles, and Statue of Liberty and fighter jets in the background. Oh, they don't mention the angels. Huh, interesting. That came after the president...
The original sorry, keep going.
Yeah. That came after the president had blasted Pope Leo in a tirade on Truth Social as quote unquote weak for opposing the Iran war. Several major supporters of Trump had objected to the Jesus Christ imagery and called for the president to remove it. And it goes through some X posts here. There's one quote, seriously, I cannot understand why he'd post this. Is he looking for a response? Does he actually think this? Conservative influencer Riley Gaines posted on X Monday morning, quote, either way, two things are true. One, a little humility would serve him well. Two, God shall not be mocked, end quote. Joey Jones, co-host of Fox News, The Big Weekend Show, wrote on X, quote, that picture is Looney Tunes. I don't clutch pearls or feign outrage. I think all politicians are narcissistic by nature, but come on, amigo. No unforced errors would be great, end quote. More of the same from Brillin Hollyhand, a conservative political activist, quote, this is gross blasphemy. Faith is not a prop. And quote,
funny.
You don't, yeah.
Brillin Hollyhand is that young conservative commentator fellow who somebody was trying to kind of not replace Charlie Kirk, but it was right after Charlie Kirk, and they were trying to bring up like this new young conservative guy going around basically doing the same stuff that Charlie Kirk was doing. And there were certain people saying like, oh, he's so great, he's the next Charlie Kirk. But he basically didn't have the skills to pull off.
That's too bad.
Kirk. But people were a little, at least there was at least a psyop to be like, oh, Brillin Hollyhand trying to be Charlie Kirk. It's so insensitive or something like that.
Yeah. Quote, this is, I guess, Hollyhand here. You don't need to portray yourself as a savior when your record should speak for itself. The same God who saved Trump's life from that bullet sent his son Jesus to die for our sins. He died for Trump just as much as for you and I. All right, everyone's a theologian. Michael Knowles, who hosts a show for a right-wing outlet, the Daily Wire. Interesting, they frame it as a right-wing outlet. Said on X, quote, I assume someone has already told him, but it behooves the president both spiritually and politically to delete the picture no matter the intent, end quote. This is my favorite one, Basil. The Knights Templar International wrote in a post on X that they, quote, demand that this offensive and blasphemous image be removed forthwith. We supported President Trump in 2016 and 2024. However, We are deeply offended by this and have no other choice but to condemn it wholeheartedly and ask for a public apology to the Christian brethren who have been deeply upset by this depiction. We respectfully remind President Trump of the Bible scripture found in Galatians 6:7. Ooh, 6:7. God will not be mocked. End quote.
Now,
And then at the end, yeah.
well, I was
I
going
was
to
gonna
say, the Knights Templar response actually, it feels like they're responding to the most likely, I don't know, intention behind what it, behind the posting. Because you got to remember, this is not the first time he's posted something like this. And for those who are listening and haven't seen the image, it's done in that classic, like, religious painting style. It's almost like a Thomas Kincaid painting.
Right.
And, there's a sick man, kind of looks like Hunter Biden in the front, but he's laying on a hospital bed and he's got the gown. And then there's Trump standing behind him in a white robe and sort of the crimson accent to the robe, like you would see on many depictions of Jesus.
Like a shawl or something.
In
Yeah.
Trump's left hand is just like a shining ball of light. And in his right hand, he puts on the forehead of the sick man. Now, he's also surrounded by like an army man and a nurse and a praying little girl, and looks like some other kind of veteran. In the background, there's the Statue of Liberty. There's fireworks. There's a Lincoln Memorial. There's a big, of course, American flag waving in the top left with eagles flying over. There's some jets flying over. And then up at the top,
yeah.
Yeah, and then up at the top, depending on which image you're looking at, there's either some like maybe what might be the souls or the spirits of fallen soldiers, or in the one that he apparently, or his account apparently posted, they're kind of like these weird angel looking spirit things, not like an angel like you would expect, like in this picture, this very classic,
right,
kind of American depiction of Christian imagery, but like a scary angel with like spikes for a head, and the soldiers next to him are sort of these blobs.
Like three horns.
Three horns and like these spiky wings. Not your traditional angel, but up there anyway. So that's kind of what you get for the basic composition of the picture. And the reason I bring this up is because he's actually posted images like this in the past. And if not him, this is kind of a classic piece of the meme warfare that's been going on since 2016. These various depictions of Trump in kind of a religious context. Sometimes he is like the Christ figure. Sometimes, Jesus has his hand on him. Jesus is hugging him, but there's very strong correlation between some almost humorously stereotypical religious artwork, at least modern religious artwork. And, it's been my impression in the past that there's, because of the meme warfare, because of how all that works, that there's like a slight, satirical nature to it, or a slight humorous kind of thing. And immediately when I see this, I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny. Like, it's always kind of funny. They're making pictures of Trump with his shirt off, and like he's
all ripped. He's got a six-pack.
You've seen various pictures like this that are just sort of part of the satire of the meme warfare. But this one particularly really sent people. And it's interesting because in the responses that you're reading,
yes,
everybody's really, I guess, offended that Trump is in this sort of Christ
healing figure
position. Yes, he's healing the sick. I think it's mostly the white robe with the red that really makes the connection, because you could say, Christians are called to lay hands on the sick and this sort of stuff. You could make that case, but I think he's wearing that classic white robe with red stuff, and so from like a basic rage bait sort of point of view, you say, oh, he's not Jesus, why he's pretending to be Jesus. I think this image would be offensive to a lot of people, even if it was Jesus in the image and not Trump, because of the like America aspect of it, the flag,
Sure.
of
It
the
would bring out a
world, the
different.
Statue of Liberty.
Yeah,
Like there'd
yeah,
be a whole different group of people who would be upset if it was Jesus surrounded by this like patriotism or nationalism
yeah.
imagery. But what really sent those who have an eye for these things, and it wasn't reported on in the mainstream reports of it. In fact, the part was cut out of the image they showed in the mainstream
At the top.
report,
Yeah.
is on the top, where in a sort of rays of light, as if coming from heaven, there's this weird, some kind of would consider it like a scary demonic kind of creature. You could make a case if you wanted, if you have biblically accurate angels, they're very scary, eyes and rings and wings and all that spooky stuff.
Multiple
So
wings. Yeah.
yeah,
All kinds
yeah,
of stuff.
wings and wings and wheels and wheels and wheels. So, angels are scary anyways. We know this from the biblical accounts. But in an image like this, where it's all very classic and all very, kind of religious symbolism in different ways, to have this weird sort of demon creature coming down, overseeing Trump healing the sick, wearing Jesus's clothes, that kind of sent off a whole other group of people, this sort of truthy Nephilim aware, the Nephilim aware as a new category.
Nephilim. I like that. The NA, the Nephilim aware.
Nephilim
the-
aware. Yeah, this
I think the three little horns on the head there, there's like two things that I guess are supposed to be wings, but they look, I don't know, they look like flagpole. I don't know. I can't really tell what they are. But those are in the back. But on the head, or where the head would be, are three spikes instead of a head. And of course, people are pointing out Daniel 7, both verse 8 and more specifically verse 24, where it talks about the 10 horns, which are 10 kings. And then another horn comes out, a little horn comes out and uproots 3 of those horns. So this 11th king, presumably, takes out 3 of them. So, people are pointing out like, oh, is this the little horn that took out the 3 other horns from the 10 horn prophecy? And is Trump the little horn? And, that kind of stuff going on,
And,
that kind of conversation.
It's mostly strange because what people point out is that this image is not an original image from Trump. Like Trump didn't make this image or whatever, somebody on his team.
Yeah.
This is actually a post of another image, apparently by somebody called Nick Adams, who created this image. Maybe, I don't know if he's an artist or if he used AI to generate it or something.
Yeah.
The original version of this image, instead of the demon and the weird, scary spirits in the sky, has pretty obviously like the spirits of fallen soldiers.
Yeah, soldiers. There is a dove like wings in the background behind the figures, but more or less a more pretty straightforward.
Yeah, more
depiction of
pretty
just soldiers.
straightforward patriotic imagery. So
human head.
The weirdest thing I think about this image getting posted is, I don't know, Trump calling himself Jesus. I don't know. I think there's a satirical thing. Whoever's running his image maybe didn't pay too much attention and either thought it was
claims
funny,
he posted it, so
or it was on purpose to rile people up. I have my own theories about that. But the weirdest part about it is that he posted an alternate image that changed soldiers to like weird, scary alien angels.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only difference, I think, from the original, right? I mean, there's a little bit of maybe a slight style difference or something, but yeah, first off, why would you run it through AI? Like, what's the point of running it one more time through AI unless you're prompting?
That's the claim that he or somebody ran it through AI, but I am not sure that that's the case. I mean,
no, I think so, because the side by side I'm looking at here, like even the face of the original one, Trump's got like a little more of a smile going on. The one he posted, he's very subtle, but yeah, he's not smiling as much.
The lighting's a little.
You can just tell there's a little bit of a difference with some of the things here, the elements, within the image.
Perhaps,
everything
perhaps.
looks
Doesn't matter
the same.
how it's done, but the question is why.
Right,
it's
right,
one
right.
thing to post the image that's sort of flattering of you. And again, I think he wanted to make people mad. And so, he'd post it for that reason. But then to make alteration that's so weird and so obscure and also abstract, like you
Yeah.
look at the demon angel thing and you can't even tell necessarily what's supposed to be what. And the soldiers that are flanking the demon angel thing, they're in the exact same shape and pose as the soldiers in the original image, but they're just kind of like blurry and messed up. Like
Right.
it's very weird.
Yeah. Well, who knows? I mean, there's different things going on with the image and people's takes on it. I had a quick take on it, which is interesting because I actually didn't even know that Trump was responding to the Pope. But I went ahead and posted it with the old Matthew McConaughey crying meme, where he's like in Interstellar, where he's realizing what's going on and he's very loud. And he's just crying. And I said, Protestant Christians realizing Trump portraying himself as Jesus Christ is just as antichrist as the Pope claiming to be vicar of Christ on earth. And of course, that got people going. But yeah, Trump was asked about this image this morning after a little stunt about a DoorDash delivery to the White House. And we won't necessarily talk about all that. But yeah, there was a little staged DoorDash grandma delivering some food to Trump, and Trump opens the door at the White House, and there he is. And I guess he had the whole press out there waiting for a little bit for the whole thing. But Trump was
just real quick, a comment on
Sure.
the DoorDash grandma, because this is how he kind of
Okay.
started the media stunt here in the beginning.
Yes. Yeah.
He had a DoorDash grandma. I mean, she's grandma.
Well,
'cause
it
wearing a
says
shirt.
DoorDash grandma on her shirt. Yeah.
She has a shirt, and so she's delivering DoorDash to the president, and it's kind of supposed to be like this. Look, I'm supporting the gig worker or
Right.
whatever. He's just like us. He gets DoorDash. This sort of this
Everyday
impression
guy.
that, like, hey, keep buying your DoorDash, keep the economy going, this kind of stuff. But the fact that it's a grandma, like you're not supposed to have 65, 70-year-old people who
Yeah,
are
it's
in
true.
such a bad economic situation that they have to be driving DoorDash. Like DoorDash should be for kids in their 20s who just
Yeah.
need a job, need to pay the rent, but don't like, having a boss or something. You should not be at retirement age driving DoorDash. I think it's a really bad look. And you know what? Again, I am hesitant to believe that anything Trump does is an accident. Maybe there's some reason he's doing that, but I just don't think it's a good look.
Yeah. Well, it turned into a whole press conference, this little delivery of food. And Trump was asked about the Jesus picture. So here's Trump answering the question.
Mr. President, did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, "How did they come up with that?" It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better. As an example, the 11,000. I understand your husband's going through treatment.
Okay, so now he's just gaslighting all the Christians, saying that we're just all fake news, Basil. Anyone and everyone who said this is Trump depicting himself as Jesus is just fake news. He's just a doctor.
Yeah.
He's just
I mean, I'll say it again. I'm hesitant to believe that Trump does anything on accident. However, we do got to remember he's an 85-year-old man navigating. I think he's 85, or he will be 85. He's older than 80. He's an 80-plus-year-old man who's navigating the internet, which is a crazy, confusing place to be. I could see it, somebody sending him the picture and being like, oh, look at this picture somebody made of you, Mr. President. And he just looks at it and says, wow, I'm healing this guy. I'm a doctor. I mean, look, it would
Doctor
be,
Who?
and what I'm saying shouldn't actually be a defense of him, by the way. If anybody's thinking that I'm like defending him in some like excellent way, because if he did look at this and think he's a doctor, that's like a classic. I love my boomers. Don't hear me wrong when I say this, but it's kind of a classic Facebook boomer moment, you know, posting or reposting something, having a total misunderstanding about what you're looking at. If he did look at this and think he's a doctor, sure, you could say he's innocent of trying to, you know, of heresy, but it's also not a great look. Just as how a grandma should not be driving DoorDash, you know, an 80-plus-year-old man should not be having misconceptions about an image on the internet and then reposting it, especially
he's
with
79 years old. And by the
Sure.
way, you know, this is the end of the old world order. Okay, the boomer world order is coming to an end, and maybe this is just you know, more signs of the aging population there, and the end of that whole era. As we'll get into the new cybernetic world order. But
Now-
hey, some people might argue that, yeah, even saying he's a doctor is blasphemous because, of course, the Holy Spirit is the counselor. You know, he's the helper, he's the advocate, he's the one that helps restore and guide and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So,
Well, on the left, a progressive would say it's, you know, stolen valor for him to even depict himself as a doctor, because of course doctors are holy men. You know,
yeah, that's
after
true. You're
COVID.
right. Yeah, that's true.
Now-
yeah. He's going to offend everybody.
You know, and there's another sort of deeper political side of this, and I won't get too far down the rabbit hole, but again, from his actions, we should begin by assuming that everything he's doing is somehow for his benefit. And I'm just saying that if you wince at that and you think I'm crazy, then you've got a really short memory, okay? Because remember, the past whole 10 years, he does completely inappropriate things, says totally off the rail, you know, anybody would say he shouldn't say these things or do these things, whether it be from the war, whether it be from news appearances, whether it be from bad tweets. I mean, total insanity, right?
Mhm.
However, when you're looking at it and you're remembering our, you know, queen witch, Marina Abramovich, who
Mhm.
came out and said multiple times that Trump is a very powerful chaos magician. And the thing with chaos magicians is they do the most insane things, and somehow it always ends up to his benefit. So I sit here and I go, okay, what in the world, how would this craziness go to his benefit? Even from posting it, whether I was on purpose or not, and then taking it down, what would be the benefit from this? Well, we're in a time right now, especially the past couple months, where there's incredible upheaval and incredible realignment in the Republican Party. You know, you've got all the podcasters turning against Trump. You've got all the anti-war libertarian types turning against Trump. You've got all the, you know, not so stoked on Israel conservatives turning against Trump. Lots of people who formerly supported Trump turning against him. Huge swaths of his support base. And you know, you go, okay, well, geez, I mean, I guess he's not trying to get elected again. He doesn't really need support like he did last time. What in the world is going on here? I think there is some sort of campaign to split the Republican Party on purpose, because when the next election comes around, Trump's not going to be able to run. And there's a question of, you know, of course, you'd assume
A third term. Get
you'd
into
assume-
war, third term. Go ahead,
Yeah, that's
sorry.
always possible. You'd assume that a Democrat would get elected after this, right? With all this chaos, all this
Pattern.
upheaval,
Yeah.
him turning, you know, breaking his promises, the pattern would say a Democrat gets elected in 2028. It seems almost inevitable at this point. However, if you can split the Republican Party and turn enough Republicans against Trump in particular, and then provide a sort of anti-Trump candidate, then the Republicans
An
and
anti-Trump
conservatives,
Republican is what you're saying,
and-
right?
a what?
an anti-Trump Republican
That's what I
that
mean. Right.
even
So
the Democrats might even vote for as if the momentum is strong enough.
without a sufficiently opposite Republican than Trump to run in 2028, then all the Tucker Carlsons and all the the libertarians, everybody who's turning against Trump would sort of force themselves to vote Democrat. You know, I'm not saying all of them, but there would be a huge portion of people who used to vote for Obama and then voted for Trump. Well, they're going to go back to voting for Democrats. So it kind of seems like an establishment Republican play to turn enough people against Trump that they will that they will vote for an anti-Trump Republican instead of switching back to Democrats. I don't know. I'm not a professional political, strategist, but if I'm ideating different ways that he would so obviously and blatantly and what seems to be purposefully turn everybody against him, I would kind of start looking towards 2028. I think he knows the midterms are lost, but they plan these things really far out in advance. As an establishment, the Republican Party would plan these things out way far in advance.
I would imagine they knew a Charlie Kirk assassination would create this sort of rift. And obviously, a couple weeks ago, maybe it was a week ago, Trump came out and bashed Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and that whole camp. And what Nick Fuentes was saying a few weeks ago, we might need to get a Democrat in there again, stuff like that, which feeds into your theory that, maybe no Democrats, but if we get a Republican that is, strong anti-Trump sentiment, then it might be some kind of hedge.
And, maybe not even a necessarily anti-Trump. I don't think an anti-Trump person would necessarily be the move, but someone who people would be relieved, someone different than Trump, somebody a little bit more establishment, not fully establishment, not like a, what's his face? I can't think of his name right now.
Marco
not
Rubio.
I would say maybe something like a Marco Rubio, because he's just a little saner, a sane version of Trump. Anyway, who cares about the politics?
The politics don't matter as much. I will say, though, that Alex Jones is on this whole thing. Back to the image here. Why did Trump alter the AI Trump Jesus image to have a Luciferian ancient sun god behind him?
Yeah.
Live. So he's live with, breaking all that down. So
wow. Good. He's on it. Good for him.
All over.
We're live also, Alex Jones. We're live and we're also talking about it.
I think a lot more people tune into the Alex Jones show than Canary Cry,
probably.
but it's okay.
Okay. So over the weekend, very interesting thing. On Friday, if you were paying attention, you'll remember that the ceasefire began. The ceasefire in Iran.
And it ended like 30 minutes later. Yeah.
Trump finally got them to bend the knee, and there was a ceasefire, and there's a whole bunch of hullabaloo, a lot of back and forth in the media about the details of this. Very annoying. But the good news was, depending who you are, that the ceasefire only lasted about 8 hours, because during the ceasefire, Israel kept attacking Lebanon. Iran used this as an excuse to end the ceasefire. But
technically, it was not in the peace or the ceasefire
it wasn't
deal.
on the list,
The technicalities, everyone can argue.
Go back and forth, all sorts of twists and turns of technicalities. But the point is, the ceasefire didn't last long. I don't think anybody expected it to last long. But on April 10th, which I believe was Friday, correct?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it had to be Friday. So Friday, the day of the momentary ceasefire, Donald Trump truthed, in all caps, of course, world's most powerful reset. President DJT.
We need a great reset.
Love how he signs off. President DJT, in case you wanted to know who posted that.
Yeah, so the Great Reset.
I'm
sorry, not a great reset. The world's most powerful reset. Out of all the resets, he's got the most powerful one.
Yes. Well, and this is the conversation, right? Because of course it harkens to the Great Reset. This is where everybody's brain went immediately. However, He didn't say the Great Reset. He says this is the most powerful reset. Is this a different reset? Is it a better reset
I think it's
from the
supposed to
Great
be
Reset?
greater than the Great Reset. I think that's his play there. It's greater than the Great Reset.
It seems
The
there could be
most powerful.
something else going
He's
on.
so good rhetorically. He's just always, takes it to the extreme. I was mentioning last episode how it's like at some point he's going to run out of rhetorical runway, but he does not seem to care. I guess he will be the one to push the walls of the rhetorical runway further down. I
He'll
mean,
always find a way.
how do you have any kind of a bigger reset than the world's most powerful reset?
Right,
The
exactly.
world's most giga powerful reset? I don't know. It's just,
Yeah, we'll see. Well, he always finds a way, like I said.
Yeah.
So, and this was at the time of the ceasefire. Everybody thought the ceasefire thing was gonna. This cat is really bugging me. Get off my shoulder. Your claws are too sharp, man. Your claws are too sharp. Sorry. All right. So now, after the ceasefire immediately broke, of course, there's all this drama and, just threats going back and forth. And by Monday morning, actually, it was by Sunday, it was announced that, okay, you don't want a ceasefire. We're going to blockade the whole thing.
Right.
And during the ceasefire period, again, part of the deal was, hey, you got to let ships come through. Okay. You got all these ships, they're trapped. You need to, it's one thing to be trapped on the outside of the Strait of Hormuz and can't get in. It's a totally different thing to be trapped on the inside and just be taken hostage, basically. And the Iranians hilariously came out and said, well, actually, sorry, we really wouldn't recommend going through the Strait of Hormuz because we put a bunch of mines in there, a bunch of sea mines. And you can imagine America went, okay, we'll go get the mines, take the mines out, or at least tell us where the mines are. And the Iranians turn around and say, we don't actually know where the mines are. We kind of just dropped them. We panicked. We spread all the mines. We have no way of actually finding these mines. Now the question persists, are there actual mines or were they just saying that to keep people out? Nobody knows. But posted yesterday, Sunday, this came straight from Central Command, U.S. to blockade ships entering or exiting Iranian ports. Real quick. And so before this, this was actually the same day on Saturday, they said, okay, let's go find the mines. The American Navy sent some destroyers in there and said, well, don't worry, we'll prove that it's safe. We'll go chugging in there. If we find any mines, we'll get rid of the mines. We'll use some underwater drones and we'll get some mines. To this moment, I don't know if anybody actually found any mines, but the U.S. kind of called Iran's bluff on the mines. And then CENTCOM posted, U.S. Central Command forces will begin implementing a blockade of all maritime traffic entering and exiting Iranian ports on April 13th at 10 a.m. That was this morning, in accordance with the president's proclamation. The blockade will be enforced impartially against vessels of all nations entering or departing Iranian ports and coastal areas, including all Iranian ports on the Arabian Gulf and Gulf of Oman. CENTCOM forces will not impede freedom of navigation for vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz to and from non-Iranian ports. Additional information will be provided to commercial mariners through a formal notice prior to the start of the blockade. All mariners are advised to monitor notice to mariners broadcasts and contact U.S. Naval Forces on bridge-to-bridge Channel 16 when operating in Gulf of Oman and Strait of Hormuz approaches. So, there's a lot of bad responses from Iran. There's a lot of bad responses in the mainstream media, a lot of bad responses from various outlets like this, because they were saying that that the U.S. is blockading the Strait of Hormuz altogether, blocking everybody from going in or out. And so if a ship came through, they'd be like, oh, the blockade is failing. A ship made it
Right.
through. The U.S. Navy can't stop a ship. When the blockade is strictly for ships going in and out of Iranian ports. But, you get the 5th-generation warfare misinformation to just kind of tell whatever story you want to tell. Let me go back to my thing here. Let's play this clip here. We got some clips from Fox in this case.
Preventing any ships from getting in or out of Iranian ports on the Strait of Hormuz, far in the distance on the Persian Gulf behind me. Now, taking a look at U.S. military assets here in the Middle East right now, roughly 18 different ships across the region, including the USS Gerald Ford, which is back in the Mediterranean Sea just south of Cyprus. Now, over the weekend, CENTCOM says for the first time since this war began, 2 U.S. destroyers entered the Hormuz Strait. The U.S. ships are working to clear any mines along with the help of underwater drones. And now President Trump says the U.S. will block Iranian ports on the strait, potentially devastating Iran's economy. Here's the president within the past hour or so.
Right now we have a blockade. They're doing no business. I didn't like seeing boats come out if they were doing business with Iran, but if they weren't, no boats came out. So now Iran is doing absolutely no business, and we're going to keep it that way very easily. Don't forget, their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft is gone, their radar is gone, and their leaders are gone. It's a lot.
Okay.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
A lot gone. I like this graphic, the U.S. military assets in the Middle East. It reminds me of, I don't know if you played this growing up, Basil. There was a game called Battleship. Did you ever play Battleship?
Of course.
Yeah. And I just had this moment because all these different battleships, they're different colors, different sizes. And this graphic is not easy to understand. They're like, there's a lot of just boats and ships and battleships. It's just all over the place around this map here. But yeah, I think it was supposed to invoke the young, or I guess the old people that used to play Battleship back in the day. F5.
Very good.
C11. Okay, go ahead.
So that's the status of the blockade. Okay, it's just been going for a couple hours.
Great.
Now, what's interesting, because of course, especially all those outlets saying, "Oh, he's blockading everything. He's stopping all the oil. He's not letting any ships through. He's destroying the world economy on purpose," and they're only partially right, of course, because it seems to be like he is destroying quite a bit of the global economy on purpose. And this was a conspiracy theory up until today, because some updated info as a result of the blockade blocking Iranian oil. Now, remember, China gets a bunch of their oil from Iran, India, specifically a lot of not necessarily non-allies, but not necessarily our best friends. And they would get oil from Iran for very cheap. I think there were, some of the stats where like China was buying oil at $20 a barrel instead of $60 or $80 a barrel. And you zoom out and you say, okay, well, there seems to be some pretty convenient knock-on effects that perhaps this is all to stop China from getting the oil they need.
Sorry.
What is that?
That's a great reset.
Ah, cool. All right. But there is an update in conjunction with the blockade of the Iranian ports, because nobody can get their oil from Iran anymore. And here's the result.
We're watching that U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh, hold on. Even more battleships all over the world, Basil. Look at this map. I love all these maps. It's getting really intense with the battleships.
I'm glad you're enjoying it so much.
I love it. This is great.
For nearly 2 hours now. A ship tracking firm reports 121 empty oil tankers are making their way to the United States of America. 68 of those 121 vessels are very large crude carriers capable of carrying 2 million barrels apiece. President Trump has urged countries squeezed by Iran's disruption of the Strait of Hormuz to turn to American energy supplies instead. Well, it would appear perhaps they are obliging him. They are listening to Trump. The president told Fox, quote, China can send their ships to the U.S., China can send their ships to Venezuela, while also saying that empty oil-carrying ships from many nations are all headed to the U.S. to load up. That from the president of the United States. A lot to follow today. Put that map back. You know,
Put
that map back up there.
Put the map back up.
America.
So
Yes.
this is hilarious because those who listen to the show regularly, you know, this will seem pretty familiar. And the question has always been, oh, why is he destroying the oil economy? He's going to bring everything down. Well, you ask yourself that. Why would he be destroying the oil economy? Is it because he just loosened regulation on American pumping? Is it because he just took over Venezuela and now controls Venezuela's oil? This perhaps has something to do with his obsession with Cuba and the whole drama about getting Cuba, taking over Cuba. Because what we have here is now basically the world's oil tankers, empty oil tankers that would, at least half of them would be going to Iran specifically for their oil, are all heading for the Gulf of America. And, you know, which is pretty cool. It's called Gulf of America, right? That seemed like a pretty random thing for no reason. But you have multiple of the sort of seemingly insane moves from Trump over the past, at least this term, coming together to sort of form this brand new, very convenient economic situation for the U.S., where you've got the U.S.'s enemies, the U.S.'s friends. The U.S. now is now I believe, the highest exporting country in the world. I think we are currently exporting 34% of the entire world's crude. And you think, well, why weren't we doing that before? Well, there's a lot of reasons we weren't doing it before. First, we hadn't taken over Venezuela. We hadn't threatened Cuba because, of course, Cuba is sort of the gatekeeper of the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America. If Cuba wanted to cause problems, they certainly could have. So, you know, it's interesting because when you look at this stuff from the energy, Great Reset, Don Rowe doctrine, you zoom out and see all of these things, you know, not as separate crazy things that a madman does randomly, but you start putting the puzzle pieces together. It seems like this morning on Monday, everybody, doesn't matter how crazy they thought these things were before, doesn't matter how you know, I don't know, inappropriate it was to take over Venezuela or start the war with Iran. Whether you can like it or you cannot like it, that doesn't even matter, because of course there will be people hearing this right now who goes, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe Basil loves Trump. He just loves Trump." So
I personally don't like the rhetorical war games, but you know, whatever. He's getting it done, I guess, for Americans.
The point is, you take every absolutely lunatic thing that he's done in this entire administration, from craziness like controlling Venezuela, crazy military operation, to just saying that he can come in and take over Cuba, the seemingly like pointless, random conflict with Cuba, all the way to the most random, seemingly only because he's a crazy person, renaming it to the Gulf of America. It seems like it was, if it was not the plan the entire time to do this exact thing and blockade Iran, he's certainly good at adapting to his situation when every crazy thing he does allows this sort of thing. Now, will this bring America to the golden age? Suddenly, are we normal people going to get to appreciate all the world's oil wealth coming into America?
No, we have to work
Probably not.
DoorDash.
That's right. We got to work DoorDash until we croak in our graves. However, we got a text before we started the show.
Yes.
And let me pull it up here.
Okay.
Which I love it when
this is
people
going.
text. They can text. You can text us whenever you want. Again, text the word canary to 877-740-3226. We'll send you a text just before we go live so you don't miss the show. You can text us back at this number. Now, don't expect a response because it's very expensive for us to text you through this, but you can text stuff to us. And 518, which I'm not sure who 518 is, but 518 texts and says, I hope today's episode is about replacing the dollar. And while we love talking about currency and digital currency and the death of the dollar and the Fed and how all this works, Trump has been pretty explicit about how much he loves the dollar. Now, could he be lying? Yes, he could totally be lying. But we do know that the most immediate threat to the economic well-being of every American, the most immediate threat is the threat to the petrodollar. Because if you think you don't like fiat dollars now, you will hate dollars. You will be using dollars to wipe your butt in the morning if the petrodollar goes down the drain. And we've been following, the BRICS nations. We've been following the Saudi Arabian contracts that they no longer have to sell into petrodollar. We've been tracking Venezuela and Iran, both countries who are exporting oil in yuan and getting off the petrodollar, because the petrodollar is our number one weak spot. Well, if nothing else, the fact that Iran is currently blockaded and we control Venezuelan oil exports, and we're now exporting 34% of the world's crude oil, if for nothing else, it's for enforcing the use of the petrodollar. Now, we've talked about it before. The petrodollar is just the petrodollar. It's just sort of the promise that America can flex over the world. And most of the world hates it. They don't like it. But the petrodollar is not the end all to be all, because of course we know about central bank digital currencies, stable coins, corporate stable coins are more specifically the thing. Through the stable coin system, you'll be able to take basically every American dollar and petrodollar and triple it out of nowhere. It's complicated economic stuff, but we've explained it before. But basically,
on the ledger, it'll be
every dollar that exists suddenly becomes $3 once the stable coins are sort of implemented. Now,
privatized and decentralizing the debt. It'll be a big
the stable coins and the central bank digital currencies, as the Genius Act is written now, still require the dollar. There is
treasury to back up every dollar. If any company wants to issue stable coins, which is going to happen, you're going to have Apple stable coin, you're going to have Tesla stable coins. All these big companies will be allowed to issue stable coins, but the rule is you must have one-to-one backing that dollar, that digital dollar. So to do that, those companies are going to have to purchase treasury bonds and, treasury
we've
notes.
gone over it before. We don't need to get into the details of it. But the point is, there is no stable coin digital ID future without the dollar. And that's something that Trump and the technocrats have sort of ensured because, they still want the dollar. They still have a bunch of dollars. They do business in dollars. They don't, if dollar goes to nothing, then they're kind of down the toilet too. So they've created this system where it is going all digital currency. However, that digital currency is based off the fiat system, of course.
I think we should just coin the term trans dollar right now, because that's what it's going to be. It's a trans dollar.
Sure.
And that's not the trans you're thinking. It's the transhuman, transition into a post-dollar economy. People use digital dollar, but I think trans dollar has more, kind of a punchier.
And it's funny, Gonz, because, for the past couple months, we've been sitting here being like, okay, it's not about nuclear. Don't listen to the the administration. It's not about nuclear. And it's like, no, it's not about this. I mean,
It's not about nukes and
everybody's
weapons, but
got
it is
their
nuclear.
own ideas about what Trump is actually doing. And
Sure.
people making it too complicated. But, there's whole people who have entire careers on X or podcasting or whatever, and just, just throwing out literally any old reason that we don't like what's going on. But we've been saying for months here that I feel like there's probably a lot of that's on purpose disinformation, probably coming straight from the Trump administration to create their own controlled opposition, because the only thing that really makes sense when you look at it all together is this exact thing, the reinforcement of the petrodollar by cutting off oil circulation in the world and exporting most of it ourselves. But that's too boring. That's too simple. Everybody, it's about Israel. It's about this.
It's those other things too. But I think for the United States specifically, that it makes a lot of sense. But it's not just oil. It's about the entire infrastructure reset. Yeah, I know. Everybody
this morning, because
this morning.
Suddenly every single person who's thrown out every single theory that they can dream up in their dreams, suddenly everybody now is sure, oh, this was the plan the whole time. I told you this. It's really fun to watch the sort of tides come in and out. Which really makes.
I was just going to say, for the person who wanted us to talk about the replacement of the dollar, last week, or maybe a couple weeks ago now, the Treasury announced President Donald J. Trump's signature to appear on future U.S. paper currency. So it's not getting replaced.
Get rid of the dollar? He's going to get rid of it when he's going to use it as like an occult soft power spell to get his name in everybody's wallet.
Yeah, this is his moment. We're replacing whoever's signature's on there with Trump's, So it's not going
never
away.
happened
It's
before. There's never been a president's signature on the dollar. Okay, this is Trump promising that the dollar's not going away, and why would it? Because honestly, the dollar is the easiest, most logical way to transition into the digital economy. Because you don't need to invent something out of nothing. You just base it all on the dollar. So I'll say this, the dollar's not going away, but also digital ID, digital currency, the world currency, that's also going to happen.
I have to say this because I know I've said it before, but yes, we are not going to have a central bank digital currency. We are not doing CBDCs. And you will hear people, politicians and others will say, down with CBDCs. We can't have a CBDC. Make sure the bill says no CBDCs. And everyone will jump on board. But the problem, and I've been saying this for years now because we were watching what Tether, which is a stablecoin company, what they were doing. They were kind of like the test run, I think, for all of this. But it's not going to be a central bank digital currency. It's going to replace the C central bank with corporate bank. Because again, the companies are going to be the ones issuing the stablecoin, and we will have a digital ID system. We will have a digital, sort I guess you can call surveillance type of apparatus for our money, where you can't, if you say something bad about Tesla or something, and you got a Tesla wallet, you're not going to get your yield for this month. We saw your social media post or whatever. So there is an infrastructure play here where everybody can say down with the CBDC, we don't want it, and they'll get it. They'll get this non-CBDC stablecoin thing, but it's just going to be issued through the corporations, and everybody's happy because the people get their digital money, but it's not a CBDC, and they can spend it however they want. The corporations are happy because they can they can control people's money more. Like, hey, this is great for us. We can just directly be their bank. We don't even have to work with the other banks. We can just be their bank. And then the government is happy because everyone's buying the debt.
Yes.
And now we are the debt holders.
There you go. In case anybody has been tuned out for a couple of years, there's a nice summary for you.
There you go. Yeah.
So back to the war, because of course, everybody's got a theory for why the war is doing their thing. Oh, it's Israel. Oh, it's nuclear. Oh, it's this, it's that. And, it's just all good opportunities to make big, long X posts or to call your whatever, your ideological enemies wrong. But there's a phrase, and I used it last episode. I've been using it recently because it's the most reliable way to actually detect what's going on around you. And that phrase is the purpose of a system is what it does. So if you're asking, what is the purpose of the war in Iran? What is the purpose of breaking a ceasefire? What is the purpose of being so bad at negotiating? What is the purpose of why can't they just do anything right and end this war? Well, the purpose of a system is what it does. And what this did was make the United States the most prolific energy exporter in the world basically overnight. And what's really fun about this phrase, the purpose of a system is what it does,
do people say it like that?
No, is that it has its own Wikipedia page. Okay, this is not just something that came out of nowhere. It's got its own Wikipedia page, and you can look it up. For the purpose of a system is what it does. And it's very interesting. I want to go through this just a bit because it ties in to basically the entire Canary Cry theory of everything. Okay, and those who've been listening for a while, you'll find the connections right away. But it says the purpose of a system is what it does. And yeah, for some reason they put this abbreviation, which is a bad.
I like it. Posywid.
Yeah,
Posywid, everybody.
It's horrible. I ban it from the show. It says the system of purpose is what it does is a heuristic in systems thinking coined by British management consultant Stafford Beer. Of course, a British management consultant. I wonder what his connections are to like the Bank of London or something that we could go through. Oh yeah, United Steel. Let's see.
Let me find.
We can go through the whole thing. I'm sure he's just like it.
Wow, this guy. He looks like a criminal mastermind. He's got like a monocle and a huge beard. Man,
yeah, that's your City of London, Bank of London, old world bloodline banking control system. Coined by the British management consultant Stafford Beer, who stated that there is, quote, no point in claiming that the purpose of a system is to do what it consistently fails to do. It is widely used by system theorists and is generally invoked to counter the notion that the purpose of a system can be read from the intentions of those who design, operate, or promote it. When a system's side effect or unintended consequences reveal that its behavior is poorly understood, then the pussywid perspective can balance political understandings of system behavior with a more straightforwardly descriptive view. So other examples of the purpose of a system is what it do. And remember, it says specifically, where is it? When a system's side effects or unintended consequences reveal that its behavior is poorly understood, we can think of some things in recent history. An example of this could be maybe a certain medical treatment or medical product that everybody was told to take, and then you end up taking it, and what happened? A lot of bad things happened, almost as if the purpose of that thing was not what they said the purpose was, or even what their intention was.
Right.
But the purpose of it is what it ends up doing, and it pretty reliably ended up causing a lot of trouble. You can do the same thing with taxes. What's the point of taxes? Well, it's to fund programs. Really? Because it doesn't seem to do a good job at balancing anything or providing for the country. In fact, all it seems to do is be a mechanism by which you can keep people down, take their money from them, keep them in slavery, things like this. Well, it's not a side effect that these bad things are part of that system.
The pussywid of taxes is what it does.
It's the purpose of the system. And you can run this down because in modern sort of ideological discourse, this is the left-right paradigm in a way. You
Yeah,
can boil down the left-right paradigm to this, because of course on the left it's all, no, we got to take care of people because we're nice. We got to provide for everybody. We got to, so make all this money available, give $1 billion gazillion to end homelessness in LA. Well, what happens? The companies and the people who take those bazillion dollars to end homelessness in LA, homelessness has only gotten worse. Homelessness, the more money they spend to solve homelessness in LA, the more homeless people there are. Almost as if that's the purpose of the system, not a side effect. So pretty much apply this to everything. And it's a good thing. It's a good way to apply. It's a good thing to apply to our own behavior as well. If we're in those moments of self-reflection where, oftentimes we can think that we have the best intentions. I'm sorry I did all these bad things, but I really had good intentions. I'm saying you could say that to yourself, which you all should. Of course, we should say this to everybody in our lives. People say they love us. People say they care for us. People say they are on our side. But if they're consistently doing and saying things that are having the opposite effect, the purpose of a system is what it does. And in this case, from the bombing to the bad negotiations, to the threatening to put boots on the ground, to the this, the that, the media, and not even just the media, I mean the administration, this is the 5th generation warfare, to drag you back and forth, to yank your chain back and forth with the stated goal of, no, we want to end the war, no, we want to bring democracy, no, we want to do these things. But at the end of the day, what ends up happening? All the puzzle pieces come together to secure the petrodollar and secure the Don Road doctrine to take over the energy economy. It's all right there. It's the simplest, most basic way to break yourself out of the moralizing and the ethical justifications for things, for reasons and things and institutions and people. Because with the rhetoric of morality, the rhetoric of ethics, the rhetoric of empathy, the rhetoric of democracy, all these rhetorics are just that. What you really just look at is, in the end, if you want to know what the purpose of any action or thing is, just look what it does. And that's what it's doing on purpose, whether they trick themselves into thinking otherwise or they're just trying to trick you into thinking otherwise. So this was always the plan. And, that's kind of why that's why we haven't, over the past couple of months, gotten so caught up in all the outrage, whether it's on the left or the right or the pro-Trump, the anti-Trump, the this. Because if you're following that ideological, those stepping stones that they let out for you, even just the current event stepping stones, that's exactly what they want to do so they can continue along with the plan. And so that's why you listen to this show instead of getting hooked into every single show that gives you the step by step and the reasons and the justifications and everything. And only when the plan is revealed and the system has done what it's done, then they come out and pretend that they knew it was that way all along.
Well, two things to this. One is that if you apply the purpose of a system is what it does to a theological framework, at least the Christian theological framework, it's very applicable. It makes a lot of sense, right? Like, well, if you apply it to the death and resurrection of Christ, like what did it produce? It produced reconciliation, victory over death, justification, the inauguration of God's reign. Even though you can say this is God's intention, it was designed that way from the beginning. God really purposefully did all that. So you can even say that in the theological system, this makes sense. But I find it interesting that it is applied, at least in this Wikipedia page, and this will set us up for the next topic of conversation here, or just flow right into it.
Don't go too far. Oh, you want to take us into the...
just the concept of the cybernetic perspective on things.
Well, that's the next thing. Let me read that for you, because that's where it really all comes together. And here's the origins. Beer published the phrase for the first time in his 1979 book, The Heart of Enterprise. Oh, perfect. Thereafter, he repeated the phrase many times in public addresses, speaking to the University of Valladolid in October 2001. Look at the picture of that guy. Does he look like he was alive in
you, man.
2001? It's crazy.
He died in 2002. So yeah,
he's a vampire.
He was a vampire.
Here is the quote. According to the cybernetician, the purpose of a system is what it does. This is a basic dictum. It stands for bald facts, which makes a better starting point in seeking understanding than the familiar attributions of good intentions, prejudices about expectations, moral judgment, or the sheer ignorance of circumstances. According to the cybernetician, he says, goes to uses. Organizations establish principles that define their ideal purpose. Posiwid proposes that the organization's actual principles are demonstrated by practice. So it doesn't matter what they say, it's what they do that reflects the purpose. For example, an organization that has a high rate of accidents and illness may claim that its values are health and safety. Interesting. This is World Health Organization, maybe. But applying Posiwid shows that the organization's practice contradicts those values. From a cybernetic perspective, complex systems are not controllable by simple notions of management, and interventions in a system can best be understood by looking at how they affect observed system behavior. So that phrase, the cybernetic perspectives. Now, we talk about the cyberneticists of the mid and late 20th century a lot because the cyberneticists through 20th century history also happen to be the occultists and the esotericists, the ones who imagined not just computers, but a digital realm, and using the forces of nature that nature was data and can be manipulated by data. It's the spiritual and often the actual ancestors of Silicon Valley today. The technocrats that they have, yes, they're technocrats. Yes, they're Silicon Valley bros. Yes, they're billionaires, but they're also occultists and esotericists. And the cyberneticists of the 20th century included people like Terence McKenna. A lot of people don't consider or don't think about Terence McKenna as a cyberneticist, but he considered himself as a cyberneticist. Let me finish this here. And of course, Terence McKenna, the fellow who basically brought mushrooms to the Western world, sort of didn't discover them, but found them and made white people aware of them, basically, and took all sorts of psychedelics and used it to imagine a sort of technological future. And he has a lot of crazy speeches where he basically describes exactly, in other terms, what we describe here on the show. Says here, the term is used in many other fields as well, including biology and management, whereas a cybernetician may apply the principle to the result. It results inexorably produced by the mechanical dynamics of an activity system. A management scientist may apply it to the results produced by the self-interest of actors who play roles in a business or other institution. And it goes back to the DNA, the very spiritual core of the technocrats today. Not just that society is to be run like a mechanism, like an organism, technology, like a machine based on rule of engineers and things like that, assigning priesthood to engineers and technicians as the highest sort of moral good in a society. But back to the cyberneticists of the 20th century, who were also the ones taking absinthe, taking psychedelics, using these things in their own words to sort of summon the demons from the sort of cyber world. but that also is all wrapped up in magic and mythos and pharmakia. You know, if you go back to the biblical description of magic, it's often referred to as pharmakia. And we talk about pharmakia in, you know, it has, like all things in ancient languages, has all sorts of different uses. Of course, pharmakia as in drugs, as in psychedelic mushrooms, again, back to the cyberneticists, but also pharmakia being one of the words describing magic. And of course, we've talked about lots of modern technocrats talking about technology in their words, but also magic and their practice of the occult. Now, of course, there's another famous saying that sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And as I was going through
Arthur
this,
C. Clarke, by the way.
yeah,
Yeah.
as I was going through this sort of series of connections coming out of this morning's deal, I ran across a tweet by Elon Musk. Okay. Again, we talk about Trump as a type of magician. We talk about technocrats, Elon Musk, a type of magician. All you got to do is ask the occultists, the famous occultists of today, and they will tell you exactly who the magicians are. And Elon Musk retweeted a tweet with a quote, and he said, "Well said." And what he retweeted was this. It's from Devin Erickson. He says, excuse me, show burps.
It's okay. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. I was going to play a jingle right when you burped.
Oh, you can jingle.
Okay, so this is Elon Musk, Cybernetics.
You are already sort of a cybernetics symbiote. Neural nets are taking over from regular programming. So you are connected.
These jingles are so spot on, man. I've had them for years.
I know.
Yeah.
So Devin says this: the distinction between engineering and magic is entirely a modern linguistic conceit. Now, I love that he starts out with this because we talk about the control of language. And if you control someone's language, you control their reality. Okay.
Yeah.
We've gone over it plenty of times, but it goes into kind of the trippy stuff that serves as a basis for how we understand the media, how we understand culture, how we understand ideology. When you control the language that people use and don't use, you eventually not just control what they can say, but you also control what they can think. And once you control what they can think, you control what they perceive at all, where you have instances of people or peoples coming in contact with something that they don't have a name for. And so they don't even notice that it's there. There's the famous, possibly apocryphal story of, you know, the Spanish conquistadors taking their ships to South America. And then the South American indigenous are standing there on the beach and they're looking out at an armada of ships that have come to take over their lands, but they don't even see ships. They think they're seeing clouds because the idea of a big, huge device floating out on the ocean is so far foreign. It's so outside of anything they've ever perceived. They don't even have a word for it. So they thought that their conquerors was just a weird looking cloud out there, or a series of weird looking clouds. And so they didn't prepare defenses. They didn't, you know, attack. They didn't do any of these things. So again, remember, talking about linguistic conceit is kind of the core of everything it takes to, you know, some people might call it break out of the matrix. Some might call it resisting mind control. And in other words, not to get too many complicated concepts in here, but how to resist hyperreality. Been talking about hyperreality and how most people are living in hyperreality, which has a very little relation to what's actually going on in the world. So the distinction between engineering and magic is entirely a modern linguistic conceit. To the ancients, a wizard, a magus, a sorcerer was not a man who commanded forces outside the laws of nature. He was a man who commanded the forces of nature by manipulating them through his understanding of natural law. this goes into some of the deeper conversations we've had on Clubhouse in recent months about really the concept of the supernatural versus the natural, and the Gnostic heresy of the separation between the spirit world and the physical world. And there is a sense in which, if we are so convinced that the supernatural is so far away from the physical that we can't reach it at all, we're tricked, we're fooled into thinking that the supernatural is something other than what's around us. Similar to sort of the Holy Trinity, you've got the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, 3 different persons, yet they are one God. In a similar way, you can think of people think of people, us humans, as mind, body, and spirit, right? 3 different us's, but they're just part of one us. Similarly, there's a conversation that I like to have of, the supernatural and the natural, and maybe some other word that I don't know. Yeah, maybe they're different in characteristics, but they are still of the same reality. They're not 2 separate realities. And treating them as if they're 2 separate realities really disempowers people even to just understand the emphasis of the spiritual consequences of what they do in the physical world. And this guy gets it, and he's laying it out again. Elon Musk retweeting this guy, so this is confirmation that this is how they see it as well. But the modern word for a man who commands the universe by understanding its laws is engineer. Yes, the ancient sorcerer would try to commune with the spirits of the dead, or read the destiny of kings in the stars, or perform fertility rites to make crops grow. But this wasn't some special supernatural discipline to him. He's talking about from the perspective of the magician. This was simply his model of how the natural world worked. He would not have made a distinction between understanding heat and phase changes and thereby distilling alcohol, and cutting out the intestines of a bird to predict the fortunes of a business venture. Both, to him, were philosophy and natural law. But as our understanding of the laws of physics grow more sophisticated, we gradually exiled the term magic to that which had not been proven to work, and to that which had been proven not to work. I would say, in another sense, this sort of sabotaging of the word magic through, Harry Potter or something. If you try to talk to somebody who has not thought about these things and you say the word magic, they're thinking either pulling a rabbit out of a hat, or like this kind of ambiguous
non-reality.
Ambiguous, wispy, like shooting blue energy out of your hands or something, this
like a wand, and
just whatever. Whereas the real practicing occultists, they see almost everything as magic, almost everything they do. And magic, by at least some simple biblical terms, is manipulating the world according to your will and not God's will, enforcing your will over other people and the world outside of God's will. So let's see here. Were we given the opportunity to take an ancient Egyptian king on a tour of modern society, riding an electric car, he would remark that we are a rich people because we have many powerful magicians. Some of us might hasten to correct him, telling him that there's no magic used here, but he would not, in fact, be wrong. And this response was back to another Elon Musk tweet, where he simply tweets, engineering is magic, and he shows a video of his
real magic.
Yes, this is real magic. His very special rocket ship getting caught by the arms as it's landing, right? So he seriously considers his engineering to be magic, and he affirms this by this pretty esoteric explanation by Devin, by saying, well done. So again, whatever your thoughts are on pharmakia and magic, and if you're just thinking it's rabbits out of hats, it's just whatever, it almost doesn't matter, because it is the technocrats and the politicians and the esotericists and the cyberneticists, they consider themselves to be masters of magic and magicianry, sort of enforcing their will over the earth outside of the will of God. And, we see this, this connection between what we see going on, of course, Trump, this grand chaos magician, having everybody fooled until the last moment when the purpose of the system is displayed as what it does, which connects to the cyberneticists and the pharmakiists and the psychedelics of the mid 20th century, which are the direct spiritual and often literal ancestors of our technocrat leaders today, Elon being a great example of that, who is also famous for participating in pharmakia and ketamine and psychedelics.
Right, yeah.
Or Brian Johnson, the fellow who's trying to live forever. And we see this displayed in so many different ways. But Gonz, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on it. Obviously, great little monologue there. Was that?
Go off, King.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so obviously a lot there. And I think the comparison of the modern engineer with the ancient magician is appropriate as outlined by the guy. And also, Elon sort of reinforcing that point. I mean, even you think about it, all coding is done with programming language, and the language is a very important part of everything, all the constructs, communication and building things and all the stuff. It is its own form of magic, I would assume or suppose. But I did post, and this goes back to Carl Tykrib's, our friend Carl's concept of reenchantment. And we bring it up often, but we don't go this deep necessarily all the time on the nitty gritty of it all. And I did post a clip of Carl Tykrib, quote posting Elon's tweet here, or post, I guess they're not tweets anymore. And here's what I said about it. I said, let me explain why what Elon Musk references here has been the plan for a long time. The West is leading the reenchantment of society under a new mythology. So part of what this is it's rebuilding, it's retelling the story of the universe, really, is what we're doing right now. And it all makes sense here in a second here. But what I say is a technocratic and cybernetic world order based on the spiritual concept of oneness. Again, Carl Tykrib has talked about this quite a bit. I quote some people that we've quoted over the years. First, Jesuit Teilhard de Chardin. He discussed this in the 1950s, how humanity was moving towards the noosphere, the NOO sphere, the new sphere, and ultimately the omega point. And if you've been around us long enough, you know about these things. It's this idea that we're kind of becoming one organism where each human being is just a node on the network. And we're like little, cells in an organism type of concept where we're just a piece of the whole. Norbert Weiner, who's the father of cybernetics, suggested that humanity would simply become the message, quote unquote, in the new cybernetic world order. That, we were just, all we would become are vessels of communication. We're just, that's all we are. We're just, the one carrying a message. One piece of information comes to us, we deliver it to another, and that's all we are. We are just the carriers of the message. And then I also mentioned Eric Davis, who wrote the book Technosis. That's technosis with a G, like Gnostics, Technosis. And he suggested that technology carries hidden metaphysics because, underneath all the stuff we do with computing is code and hardware and stuff that we don't see. So it's, even at a very practical, materialistic sense, it is occult because all the stuff that's actually happening is behind, the screen or underneath the keyboard or whatever. And it functions like an esoteric system that increasingly frames humans as informational beings within a unified quasi-spiritual network. So it's interesting how as this cybernetic technocratic message not just permeates, but becomes our everyday interactions with our computers and our phones and all this kind of stuff, it's both simultaneously degrading the sort of the special aspect of being an individual human. Like our individuality is becoming less and less coherent in that system. And so this new mythology has to be presented to give us purpose and meaning. Otherwise, it's kind of like what's the nihilist. You end up with this nihilist, there's no meaning and purpose for anything. And while some people end up there, it's not necessarily conducive to gathering everybody and cheering bringing everybody along for the nihilistic world order. No one's going to really jump on board with that. So bringing about this new mythology of oneness, that we are actually emerging into this new creation, this new consciousness that we're all a part of, that's much more enticing. It's much more appealing to everybody. And so astronauts like Edgar Mitchell, I have a clip here of Carl Tygrib talking about this, leading universities like Stanford and international think tanks like the Club of Rome have all been planning this for a long time. It's in their literature. They talk about this. And all of this, and I say this in the post here, all of this is creating a new set of social and scientific standards. Hence why we've seen the topic of UFOs and interdimensional aliens and electromagnetism, and all these things are becoming mainstream in order to help build that new mythology. And it also makes sense why they rolled out COVID-19 and the lockdowns and stuff. It was to tear down the old world order. We kind of know, I think a lot of people are kind of up to speed on that, but it makes a lot more sense where it's like, you got to tear down the old mythology. You got to expose it. It's the Wizard of Oz. You got to show the man behind the curtain. And it was just some dude. It's this, the world order was pretty weak. Okay. And he threw a temper tantrum and tried to lock everything down in this authoritarian thing. But really, it doesn't have too much power. It doesn't have a lot of authority. And so now this new thing can emerge. So here's Carl Tygrib talking about it a little bit. Let me see here. I'll play the first few minutes, and then it goes into the quotes by some of these folks, which we don't have to go through. But here's Carl talking about it.
Enchantment offers an eschatology. It's a total system change that will inevitably produce heaven on earth. Therefore, our politics, religion, culture, and even technology must refocus. Reenchantment as an outgrowth of the postmodern experience, for in many ways it is the rediscovery of meaning from out of the postmodern vacuum, demands that our personal values are formed by the crowd. It is a feelings-based, experiential sense of reality, authenticated by the emotional energy of the group. And so we reinforce our folly by emulating each other and calling this truth. So purpose is found in the collective. Salvation is achieved by group effort. Let's call it sacred secularism or mystical materialism. This sense that creation is divine. God does not exist outside of nature. So we direct evolution. We awaken the cosmos. Listen, the global spiritual paradigm, this myth of oneness, is personally affirmed by your feelings. That is the inner confirmation of the oneness myth. Now, Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut, touched on this when he explained the personal impact of space travel,
which I think is very relevant right now with the obviously the return of all that happening right now. I think is very interesting that this is part of the myth building and the paradigm shift of the public consciousness, if you will.
The experience in space was so powerful, I started digging into various literatures to try to understand what had happened. I found nothing in science literature, but eventually discovered it in the Sanskrit of ancient India. The descriptions of samadhi were exactly what I felt. It is described as seeing things in their separateness, but experiencing them viscerally as a unity, as oneness accompanied by ecstasy. He went on, I realized that the story of ourselves as told by science, our cosmology, our religion, was incomplete and likely flawed. I recognized that the Newtonian idea of separate, independent, discrete things in the universe wasn't a fully accurate description. What was needed was a new story of who we are and what we are capable of becoming.
So there you go. He goes on here, a couple more quotes. I don't know. Do you want to hear them, Basil? I mean, they are fairly relevant to our conversation here. I think the Club of Rome one is probably the best one.
Yeah, sure.
Let me get to it here. Let's pull forward. Here we go. I think around here.
The Club of Rome offered one example. Western developed countries are among the best initial candidates for the myth-making project. The countries of this area will be required to make some significant and sometimes drastic shifts of perception in order for the new international order to be fulfilled. Thus, it is very important for these societies to make changes in their value systems. In addition, a shift in values in these societies should have a great impact on the rest of the world. The Western countries therefore appear to be very good candidates for the reception of myths about a global society.
There you go. I mean, they say the West is just primed for this new mythology. We need a myth-making project. Who's our best candidate? America or Techno-America, the Northern American Union, the technocratic dream. Let's take over Venezuela, get all the oil. Let's take over Canada. Let's take over Greenland, all the new resources for the new nuclear reactors. Let's just make it all happen. Let's tell a news story about who we are, where we come from, and where we're going.
That's kind of the interesting thing about Trump. It's the interesting part about Trump, and it's what's got him where he is in the first place. Because of course we had this sort of enforced, communist, globalist implication from international organizations, UN, EU, WHO, all this stuff that America's not special. You need to be on the same level as everybody else in the world. Botswana's just good as America, and America shouldn't have any, special treatment or get anything.
Hey, we love our Botswanians.
There was sort of this threat to America, and I don't even mean necessarily like American individuals, but the mythology of America. That it is what it is. Now, what Trump offers is a different kind of oneness. I would say, but that's one thing that Trump always kind of spoke against, and that's what a lot of people like about him is like, no, we're America. We're not. What are you talking about? We're not doing a one world government. We're doing America. But Trump's version, as we're seeing, is a reflection, again, the historical reflection of Pax Americana, is the peace of America, the peace through strength, and it's this sort of oneness in a way of America being the one in charge, but the level sort of the rest kind of leveling out. And that's part of the big, I think that's why there's such intense upheaval and fifth generation warfare to kind of tear the thing apart, because the sort of globalist push for many years now, 20, 30 years, to flatten out America to be kind of on the same level as everything else in the world, has been very powerful, very strong. It ideologically gotten a lot of usually Americans on the left. America's not great. We shouldn't be great. Why should we be better than anybody else? But then Trump comes in, offers a competing view. But it is this, it's this confusing part about who he is, what he's actually going for, because, of course, there's lots of people think who Trump is just playing right into the globalist kind of thing. And whatever sort of, it might just be part of his chaotic game plan that's causing all this crazy upheaval, because of course his Don Roe doctrine is very much, hey, it's about America. We own the Western Hemisphere. You guys do whatever you want. We're going to pull all of our military. At least this is what a lot of people kind of are theorizing about, pulling all of America's resources out of basically anywhere but the Western Hemisphere, and letting the world kind of take care of itself. We're done policing it or whatever. Now, whether that's just completely an illusion, which probably is just a complete.
We won't police it anymore, but if you don't go through us, then good luck to you.
Yeah, I mean, who knows
Pretty
exactly?
much what's happening.
But even if we take it away from like the political, because that's strictly on like even just the
Yeah,
political
that's true. Yeah,
notion, that the spiritual notion or the metaphysical notion, or even the technological sort of magical notion, the through the technocracy, the technate, through technology, through the oneness of the cybernetic realm of the internet. It's the whole thing might be more in play, but less sort of politically and more like esoterically.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Speaking of esoteric symbology coming from Trump, Trump also posted this on April 10th, the same day as the reset truth. And it is a triumphal arch.
Yeah, his
Washington,
truth
D.C.
here is, I am pleased to announce that today my administration, this was on the 12th, the 10th. So this was on the same, what did he call it? Most powerful
Right after
reset.
the most powerful reset. Yeah.
Most powerful reset day. He says, I'm pleased to announce that today my administration officially filed the presentation and plans to the highly respected Commission of Fine Arts for what will be the greatest and most beautiful triumphal arch anywhere in the world. This will be a wonderful addition to
I
the
have to
Washington.
take a phone call. 1 second.
Okay. Do you want me to sit quietly or can I keep talking?
No. Keep going.
Yeah. Okay. Jeez. This will be a wonderful addition to the Washington, D.C. area for all Americans to enjoy for many decades to come, President Donald Trump. And he has this image here of a triumphal arch. Now, for anybody who's been on the fringy side of things for any period of time, this will have immediately rung your alarm bells, because arches, of course, they exist all over the world. These triumphal arches, they're all over Europe. They're, I think, even China and Japan have theirs. They might be in a different style. But arches, these standalone arches, not just the arches in, a building, not just the arches in a church or something, but these standalone arches, most famously the Arc de Triomphe, are a heavily esoteric monument. And they've been around for centuries. This goes all the way back to the beginning of the mystery schools. And arches like this are particularly important in Freemasonry. Freemasonry, of course, they're a theology sort of built around the mystery schools, Pythagoreanism, I forget what that's called, sacred geometry, architecture as sort of a architecture and building as sort of a metaphysical language for the spiritual realm. And arches in particular, like I said, super important to Freemasonry. They sort of symbolize in a lot of different things. Some people, you can put it as like a portal from past to present, a portal from the earthly to the divine, a portal passing under arches, passing through arches. In fact, if you live in any small towns in the United States, people will know that, the Freemason, Freemasonry lodges and Freemasonry activity is very common in American cities and towns, but it's especially noticeable in small towns because usually the lodge is right there on the main street and things like that. I grew up in a small town, and I recently revisited that small town, which I knew I had a Freemason lodge. But I, walking around town, came across a very old, very kind of tucked away arch, just a freestanding arch with the square and compass over it. And you can get pretty deep into sort of the theology of arches, but those arches are used in many Freemason rituals, ceremonies. Passing from one side to the arch is like a big part in in becoming like a third degree Mason, or if, as you go up, you're passing through these sort of metaphysical arches, but they actually build these physical arches. And it's interesting because the architecture of arches, you learn about this when you learn a lot about Rome, because to build an arch is like a pretty incredible feat to accomplish when all you have is like rocks and a chisel, because there's lots of very specific sort of geometry holding the thing up. You can build an arch with absolutely no mortar, right? No glue, no mortar, just a series of shapes that hold everything together that sort of fights off the gravity. And these are not only very important things in Freemasonry, but very important things in sort of the grand power projection of empire. All the best empires have arches. They all have Arc de Triomphes, and they usually look like this one here on the picture, very big, very grand. This picture of Trump's here, I don't know how tall that is. It's probably 50 feet tall. It's got the angels with the wings spread out on top, and this is a very sort of esoteric thing. And it's, again, the timing of it, as you could almost consider this last weekend as an arch, passing through the sort of chaos of, oh, we're trying to end the war. Are we going to end the war? Or are we going to take over the world? What's going on? It's about nuclear. What are we going to do? Democracy. And then we come out on Monday and it all comes together. It's like that keystone being slid into the last brick being laid, that keystone in the arch that holds it all together by gravity. And suddenly America becomes what Trump has been trying to create, trying to make it, and sort of claiming this triumph. But at the same time, this passing from the physical, natural realm into the supernatural or the divine realm, this transformation, this golden age. So it's very intense that this has been proposed. Now, there's lots of things been proposed. He proposed his library, proposed the arch, he even proposed a tower on the moon, these sorts of things, the moon bases. These are all proposals. And so we never know if things are going to actually pan out, or follow through with these sorts of things. However, you could say that about a lot of these types of guys over the past couple of years. I mean, obviously, everybody loves making fun of Elon, whether it's Tesla, or the Cybertruck, or the spaceships, or Optimus. Elon detractors will tell you, oh, he's just lying. He just says big things because that's what billionaires do. But so far, each one of these things each one of these proposals has sort of passed through the arch, if you will, from the sort of brain world, the imagination, the supernatural that is, from one side of the arch, passing through the arch to the earthly realm, the portal. And portals don't just go one way. You go through one way, you go through the other way. And so, it's long been talked about, Trump's participation or his connection to Freemasonry. And so this, there was one specific, let's see, the Royal Arch degree. The Royal Arch degree is a particularly significant, let me see here. In Freemasonry, the arch serves as a powerful symbol representing the connection between the earthly realm and the divine. It embodies the journey of self-discovery and the quest for knowledge, emphasizing the importance of spiritual growth. The Royal Arch degree is particularly significant in this context. It focuses on the relationship between the individual and the creator, highlighting themes of enlightenment, moral development. This is just an AI explanation here, by the way. The teachings with this degree encourage members to explore deeper philosophical and spiritual concepts. So along with, I almost see this proposal in parallel with the proposals that Trump has for the golden age. You know, it all comes circling back around and culminating in this triumphal arch, this portal between the spiritual and the physical, the metaphysical and the natural world. And, you know, going back from the cyberneticists to the technocrats to the occultists, from top to bottom, these things start to play out in a really consistent manner. So, you know, I had saw somebody in chat a little bit earlier asking if we think Trump is the Antichrist. Certainly fits a lot of the description for the man of lawlessness, the man of sin. Of course, the Antichrist is not referenced in the Book of Revelation, but it's a common piece of language for it. I see you're back on the camera there, Gonz. Are you?
Yeah. I've been kind of listening to what you've been talking about here. It makes a lot of sense there. Yes, the arch being the portal, the gateway between the
Did you have anything else
spiritual
you wanted to add to it? I didn't.
Not really. I think you covered pretty much everything there. But yeah, tying it back to Trump and the golden age and the new age and the whole deal, it all kind of makes sense. And yeah, somebody, you know, you mentioned somebody in the chat saying that, you know, Trump as the Antichrist. And I did have a video back in 2017 as Donald Trump, the Antichrist, and it got a lot of views on it. I think about 500,000 views, and most people commented on there without watching it. But the video, I didn't actually say Trump is the Antichrist or the man of sin or anything like that. It was more of a study on what this individual might do based on what the scriptures tell us. And in terms of Trump, I mean, you know, I got a message from somebody who maybe you might know about the whole Trump as a doctor or Jesus or whatever, that image that we talked about at the beginning of the show. And this person was, they were kind of laughing about it, but they were like, I can't do it. The apocalypse is just way too cheesy. It's not what, you know, because we're kind of told like the revelation and apocalypse and it's so scary and all this kind of stuff. But what we get are AI generated memes, and they just couldn't handle it anymore. They were like, I can't handle the gaslighting and all this kind of stuff. And I tended to agree with the sentiment, although I don't think anything going on right now is like the ultimate end times fulfillment, at least not yet. I know that might upset some people that have been following along for a while. I think they are powerful archetypes, and maybe some people are forcing certain aspects to look like certain fulfillments. But you know, there are very specific things that the end times scriptures talk about that I don't think have happened. And when it does happen, it is actually going to be really bad. It says the saints are going to be conquered. So it's going to be a very ugly situation regardless. And leading up to that point, I think all the bricks are being laid for a certain climate of the world to fulfill those things. But you know, it's part of why I'm writing the book Archetypalism as well, or on archetypalism, because I think we can very much agree that there are many things that Trump does, whether it's the arch or this image or whatever it may be, or Obama or Biden or whoever, any world leader that tick off some boxes of like, hey, this is what it says the Antichrist will do. But there are, number one, there's multiple things. And so you would have to say that the man of sin checklist, you know, this person would have to check off everything on that list, number one. But also, I think if you look at how Jesus fulfilled the Old Testament prophecies, and we're really honest about it, and you know, there's already studies on this. There's typology and stuff. There's been, some good scholarship on this. There is an element of ambiguity and unknowns that you have to, if we're being honest about how end times events will be fulfilled, we have to be honest about that. And so, unless your eschatological system has in it some kind of reference or some kind of acknowledgement of the unknown, that God might conceal things. Imagine that, guys. God might conceal some things from us as to how he plans to have everything work out. Unless that your eschatological system accounts for, or at least acknowledges some kind of, ambiguity when it comes to fulfillment, then you might be a little dishonest, or you might be getting ahead of what God has planned. And so I think the conversation with archetypalism is appropriate in this time if we're going to have rational discussions about eschatology, because so many things in this world seem to be checking off all the stuff, but there's nothing coherent. It's like little things here, maybe some stuff over in the Middle East. Trump puts out a thing. He didn't know he was Jesus. He was just a doctor. Whatever it might be. All these different things. It is a little cheesy, And
when the time comes, it'll all come together, much like the whole Iran situation.
Right.
And I think it was Dr. Michael Heiser who said, the thing about prophecy is you got to wait until it's actually over, till it's done.
Right.
It's sort of, you can only really figure it out in hindsight,
There are passages that Jesus fulfilled as prophecy that weren't even considered prophetic passages.
Right.
So it's dishonest to say that we got it all figured out. And, I'm not saying that you shouldn't study it. I think you should, but hopefully we can have a more grounded, scripturally based conversation about this over time, and not get much like how your favorite podcaster will take a moment in time with this whole thing with Iran and run with it, and whatever, either say Trump is a hero and justify it, or say he's the worst thing ever, or whatever swaying that goes on. But then, as like you said, as it all comes together, when all the oil rigs or oil tankers turn and start coming to America for gas and oil, we're not going to know until it's over. But also, every element is meant to probably misdirect the enemies of God. But also, again, what it says in the scriptures about conquering the saints is not a pleasant experience. So, I get that there's Christians being persecuted around the world, but until there is like this worldwide justification period to just, hey, you know what? We as a global collective, we all agree that these people that believe Jesus is coming back or whatever, we must eliminate them. They're really preventing us from, moving forward with this golden age. Until that kind of thing starts happening. And then at that point, it's like, okay, it's a true test of your faith. Like, are you really going to hold to the truth of the gospel or not? Are you going to bend the knee to Caesar, or are you willing to die for your faith, kind of thing? It's pretty intense, but that's kind of the outlook of what Revelation shows us. And I don't know that we're quite there yet, but certainly the bricks are being laid for all kinds of stuff. And certainly the climate is interesting in terms of, if you compare it to most of human history, like that one post that Elon was quote tweeting or whatever. If you got, who was it that he was some ancient Egyptian pharaoh, and you like put him in an electric car. And, similarly, if we took any biblical prophet and plopped him down in 2026, they'd be like, whoa, this is crazy. This is insanity, but again, it may not be the exact fulfillment as God intends. So you got to have room for that.
Until we know. That's kind of the thing. We won't know until we know. All right, Gonz, we're 2 hours in. We got to think some producers and get scooting here. You good?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do that.
All right. We are on the value for value model, folks. We don't take any money from corporations, communist cartels. You'll notice no advertisements. We don't sell your attention for our own personal gain. No advertisers, mind control, nothing coming in here. Influencing, worming its way in. No worship of mammon here, folks. But there is an understanding, if you get any value from this show, the only way we exist and survive and continue to thrive is through the participation of the value for value model. It's very simple. If you get any value, if you've gotten any value, if you plan to get any value, you say, hey, I'll put some value back in, because nobody else is going to do it, folks. Nobody else is going to keep this show alive except for our producers. That's you. So if you want to support the show, you can do so with your time, your talent, or your treasure. All you got to do is go to canarycry.support to learn more.
Oh, sorry, I'm distracted a little bit. There's a lot of stuff going on here. They're after me.
Okay. You good?
I'm good. Yes, I'm trying to balance it all here.
Okay.
Continue. Yes, we have
Or
producers. We love
executive
them.
producers,
like
they
to thank
come.
them.
So you come in, just whatever the show's worth to you. You pick the time, you pick the number. You can sign up for a monthly producership. Thank you to everybody who signed up for a monthly producership, especially our supply droppers, our T-shirt council members, or just anybody who comes in to make the show happen on a regular basis. We would be nothing and nowhere if it weren't for our lovely monthly producers. We understand, making that kind of commitment's a big thing. So we honor and thank you so much. Our executive producers are people who come in, they support the show for $100 or more for any individual episode like this. So we want to make sure that they get the credit they deserve here at this is no longer the top of the show, but we'll thank them here anyway. Ow.
The top of the bottom of the 2-hour rant.
Yeah. So we do have one executive producer coming in support the show today, and I bet you could guess who it is. It is executive producer Sir Alex Protocol V2 Baron of the Breen Protocol. Comes in for $100.33.
Illuminatus!
He is on a 478 episode streak and a 132 episode executive producer streak.
Ooh.
And that is it for the executive producers. We're coming up on tax day, so producers are kind of apocalyptic here. So that's our executive producer for the day. We only had one other producer came in under the executive producer amount, so I'm just going to thank them right now, and that is producer Rebecca T.
Rebecca T. Amazing. Thank you, Rebecca T.
Rebecca T's keeping her 14 episode streak going here, and she comes in for 3456.
I love it. Fantastic.
But of course, we also get our support from CageRattlerCoffee.com.
Of course.
Cage Rattler Coffee. Where value for value never tasted so good.
Now's the time, everybody. Now's the time to go to CageRattlerCoffee.com. This is coffee obtained, imported, GMO-free, organic, single origin. I always forget to say single origin coffee that our beautiful, wonderful producers put together. They acquire, then they roast it in teeny tiny, small, high quality batches, and they make it available to you, dear Canarians. No longer do you have to be a slave to buying the horrible, moldy, burnt coffee that the evil corporations that hate everything you believe in have tricked you into thinking that you are enslaved to their coffee corporation. No, you can drink the best possible coffee that you can get out there. Gonz and I drink it all the time. I can vouch for it. People are sending us messages all the time about how it is literally the best coffee they've ever had. And the good news is it's guilt-free, baby, because you're not funding those big, nasty corporations. In fact, not only does a portion of every sale come to support the show, but the rest of it goes to support Canarians just like you. Parallel economy, baby. Man, if all the Canarians were just able to do business with one another, that would have an incredible effect on the prosperity of everybody listening to this show. But you can start by going to CageRattlerCoffee.com. And for this month, you can use the checkout code BABYEMU and get an extra 5% off over there. Highly recommend you do it, everybody. Go get it.
Oh, man. I ran out of coffee for this episode.
Oh, no.
I mean, just in my cup. I mean, I can go back to the coffee machine and get more, but.
Whew. What a relief.
Oh, yeah, I know.
All right. Play CageRattlerCoffee.com and let's keep moving.
Again? Okay. Here we go.
Yeah.
Cage Rattler Coffee. Where value for value never tasted so good.
Again. we forgot to mention this the past couple episodes, but there is a executive producer and supply drop challenge going on right now. The TOEF challenge is still active, and this is a challenge from producer TOEF. If you are a supply drop member or a T-shirt council member, the challenge for you is to come in, executive produce the show, and for every 3 executive producers who come in and support the show, TOEF will be sponsoring a supply drop, a whole quarter of the supply drop to any demoochers. So this is we got benefits for everybody. If you're a supply drop or a T-shirt council member and you executive produce the show, then you get to make available to producers who have never come in before. They come in, they produce the show, and TOEF sponsors a supply drop for them. So that's still active if anybody wants to get in on it. Well, we'll need to go. We've got to get some, we'll need to do some counting and see how many supply drops have been sponsored so far, and then how many demoochers do we have to receive those supply drops? Because this might be the easiest way in the world for somebody who has never, ever produced the show to come in and just produce the show for even a modest amount, get demooched, and just get a free supply drop, a whole quarter of supply drop. It's like $100 value. So, well, we'll see if I'll see if I can track down the numbers on that. But if you've never produced the show, getting demooched, coming in, supporting the show for whatever that means. And that is also counts for creating art for the show or helping out in other ways. Come in, support the show, and there's a very good chance that you'll get a free quarter of the supply drop. All thanks to producer TOEF. Thank you, TOEF.
Thank you, TOEF. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Incredible.
Let's see here. We did have, speaking of which, we had a voicemail come in from producer Monica.
Oh, right. Okay.
You have that available? Let's play that.
I do. Yes. Here we go. From Monica.
Hello, Canarians. This is Monica in Montana. Hey, I got an extra calendar in the supply drop this month, and I just don't have anywhere to hang it. So if someone in the community wants a calendar for free, I'd be happy to send it your way. Just shoot me an email with your address at naturallibertypodcast@gmail.com, and I'll send it over. Hope everybody's doing great, and thanks for all your hard work, you guys. Love you. Bye-bye.
There you
Very
go.
good. God bless you, Monica. Thank you very much. Very generous. Got an extra Canary Cry calendar in the mail. Not sure how that happened, but I'm sure she deserved it. But making it available to anybody who wants the Canary Cry calendar. A true treasure. If you have never seen or received a Canary Cry calendar, you are missing out. And this is a great way to get one. Very generous, Monica from the Natural Liberty Podcast. Go check out her podcast, the Natural Liberty Podcast. And what was that email again? Natural Liberty Podcast at
gmail.com. Yep. Natural Liberty Podcast, all one word, at gmail.com. There you go.
If you want that calendar, get connected with Monica. Do it quick, because I'm sure it's going to go quick.
Yep.
Okay. I think we should keep going on with the show, Gonz. Is there anything that you want to do?
I think we're good.
We're already 2 hours in. There's like a lot of show left, so there's
a lot to do.
We're gonna need to do some. Gonna need to pick the most important things, I think, because I don't think we can go another 2 hours. Let's start out by the update on the missing scientists, Gonz.
Okay, so this is a UFOs. Let me see here.
You don't know what you're looking at.
What's driving that thing? It's not a space alien.
Aliens. It's unidentified.
It's unidentified.
Smooth. We're keeping an eye on the narrative here, okay? This is no longer about the missing scientists. Of course, we those in our community have been paying attention to missing scientists for a very long time, but we've been watching and tracking the very strange way that the mainstream media, specifically the Daily Mail, but the mainstream as a whole, suddenly has bent the knee to basically soft disclosure, not just of aliens, but of like all classic conspiracy theories, talking about all the declassified MK Ultra, cancer cures. What was the one we had last time? I forget all of them. Directed energy weapons, Havana syndrome. And one thing that they've been loving, and this narrative has been very popular and widespread, of the missing scientists, UFO related scientists. And it was interesting because one went missing, then another one went missing. And then suddenly they started going back in time and picking out all these various scientists and government people to create this narrative, this ongoing narrative. And an interesting thing happened in this version here, Gonz, because dailymail.co.uk, last we checked, there was 9. This episode, it says, missing nuclear official becomes 10th person, tied
10.
to dark power pattern surrounding U.S. secrets.
Oh, there's a dark pattern now. Okay.
Dark pattern emerging around
Great.
U.S. secrets, Gonz.
Are we so more people are just disappearing, or is it still a retroactive
Another
addition?
person with links to American nuclear secrets has gone missing as the disturbing list of deaths and disappearances in recent years continues to grow. Steven Garcia, 48, vanished without a trace on August 28th. 2025. So it's in the past, but not very long ago.
Not too long ago, yeah.
A few months. He was last seen leaving his Albuquerque, New Mexico home on foot, carrying only a handgun.
Yeah, what's up with these guys all leaving their phones behind?
They're leaving everything behind. They're leaving their
Yeah.
phones, leaving their wearables, but they're not forgetting their guns. There's multiple of these guys who were last seen with nothing but their handgun. An anonymous source told the Daily Mail, oh good, anonymous source, that
Great.
Garcia was a government contractor working for the Kansas City National Security Campus, a major facility in Albuquerque that plays a key behind-the-scenes role in America's national defense. Specifically, KCNSC manufactures more than 80% of all non-nuclear components that go into building the military's nuclear weapons.
Nuclear weapons?
Garcia allegedly served as property custodian at KCNSC's New Mexico facility.
They're going for the custodians now too?
He's the janitor?
The janitors, the janitors sometimes know more than everybody else. They're just always around cleaning.
Government contractor working for the Kansas City National Security Campus. He was the property custodian. That's a janitor, right? Or like a property manager? Why don't they say? I think it's the custodian. Yeah, it's a janitor.
I think it's a janitor.
Okay,
yeah.
this is a little different. Now, this is what I'm talking about, folks. Now, first of all, let me finish a couple more of these. Garcia allegedly served as a property custodian at KCNSC's New Mexico facility, giving him a top security clearance and broad access to the entire site's nuclear secrets. They're really making it sound like this guy. I mean, here's the thing. The janitors are like the number one most at risk for espionage, right? Because they're not making as much. They have all the top security clearance. They can get into all the buildings. You know, they can, I don't know, get to the computers or whatever because they got to clean them. But they're not making a bunch of money. So they're sort of ripe for, you know, Chinese spies coming in, offering them money to steal secrets, stuff like that. I mean,
Goodwill Hunting. Goodwill Hunting. Wasn't the Matt Damon character? Wasn't he a janitor at MIT or something?
Did he steal nuclear secrets? What was that movie?
No, but he solved like some math equation that nobody can solve. Remember, the janitor solved it. And that was the Matt Damon. You know, good. I don't know why the good-looking young dude is the janitor, but there's one movie. I think there's there's a few of these janitors being the main guy type of stories and movies.
Yeah, such a beautiful mind, Gonz. I'm not sure. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Garcia was secretly going in there and doing nuclear fission work or something. But I think the point is, when it comes to espionage, when they're looking for somebody to like pay to steal the secrets, you look for the guy who's getting paid the least. And that's
Right.
why actually a lot of these custodians, these janitors, they can get, I'm sure, if I had to guess, I'm sure he was getting like 150 grand a year. But, 150 grand a year these days, you're still probably pretty open to stealing state secrets for whatever, $1 million or something. But he had top security clearance. The source describes Garcia's work as a very high level overseeing position for all the assets, tens, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars in equipment and assets, some of which are not classified, others would be classified. Ooh. The government's contractor's sudden disappearance marks the 10th person with ties to American space or nuclear secrets that has died or mysteriously vanished in recent years, putting U.S. national security experts on edge.
Oh, boy.
Moreover, 4 of these officials have vanished without a trace in almost the same manner as Garcia, and all had a connection to U.S. nuclear secrets or rocket technology. Now, they then go through and they summarize the rest of the 9. They do a little blurb, a little paragraph on each and every one. They also include McCaslin, who was previously described as the Air Force general involved in UFO research and, best friends with Tom DeLonge. Remember that? And up until this moment, up until 10, at 9, remember, they were saying all of these scientists disappearing had connections to UFO secrets, to secret space programs. It was all UFOs, it was all aliens, it was all space programs. This article, not one single mention of UFOs, not a single one. So the interesting thing about this ongoing operation, this media operation, is they were, of course, there was a guy who disappeared. Big deal, UFO. Oh my gosh. Then they noticed a couple more scientists over the past year or so also disappeared, also had connections to UFO research. And then some of them, they keep going back, they're going back a couple years, but they keep finding these people who are all connected to UFO research. And that's kind of been the narrative. Oh my gosh, something's going on in the UFOs. There's disclosures coming. The aliens, they're trying to hide whatever. The UFO, they're kidnapping the UFO researchers, whatever it is. Not one single mention of UFO or UAP or aliens or anything connected to that in this entire article. Instead, they're now retelling the story of each and every one of these scientists in the context of nuclear. They're all nuclear scientists now. Even McCaslin talks about they connect him to nuclear technology. And you get all the way down to the bottom, and they add one more guy. And it says, in another mysterious incident. So he's not even on the list. They're just adding this guy.
Although he'll be added to the list next week. They can't do 2 people at once.
Well,
so they'll trickle out this guy later, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see if he gets added to the official list, because listen to this. In another mysterious incident, Jason Thomas, a pharmaceutical researcher testing cancer treatments at Novartis, was found dead in Massachusetts lake on March 17th, 2026.
Oh, that's very recent, yeah.
After disappearing without a trace 3 months earlier.
Okay, so he went disappearing, and then he was found dead.
Yes.
Wow, okay.
But,
so this is like
just a pharmaceutical researcher, right?
Why would they even say this in this?
I know. No UFO research. It's all nuclear. Suddenly everybody's connected to the nuclear program.
It's all connected.
Which is already weird enough, like a weird shift in the narrative. They're the ones making this list, right? They're the ones counting all these people and connecting it to mysterious UFO research. And then suddenly they add one more guy to the list, a janitor at a research facility. And suddenly it's all about nuclear research. And then at the very end, they just add this pharmaceutical researcher. It's very strange.
It's all coming together, Basil. Person of Interest is another one of those shows. A janitor, or a maintenance worker has access to secure locations, and the plot revolves around a powerful AI system tied to national security and surveillance with nuclear level implications. There you go. There's
Good
another one.
insight, bud.
Yeah. So, okay. I mean, it seems to me that either this is like a legit thing and, we really need to be concerned about this, or Daily Mail or just some conglomerate of news people have ran with the story of, because when it started, it was like, what, 3 people on the list, like 3 or 4?
Yeah, 4. I think it was
4?
4,
Okay.
and they were all very explicitly connected to UFO research.
Yeah, so now they're just keeping the story going, and they, they're.
That
I mean, I
could
guess
be
they're
it.
all
They
are all clustered around New Mexico too, so that's also kind of interesting.
That's
New
a good
Mexico and California,
Oh, they
according
have
to
a
this
little
map
map.
anyway.
Look at that.
Yeah, they got a little map.
Little
Yeah,
map.
interactive map. Oh, there's one in. This guy was murdered in Massachusetts. So okay, if you're in New Mexico or Southern California,
I'm most weirded out by the fact that they took out the UFOs altogether.
yeah, that is strange, but also maybe not. I mean, if you think about, part of the narrative of the nuclear weapons thing was, hey, the UFOs come and they disarm the nukes, right? So maybe there's some connection there. And then with the pharmaceutical, that's more of a stretch, but either maybe the aliens are the ones that actually wanted everyone vaccinated with some kind of thing in the vaccines, or it's a way to get the genetic upgrades into everybody because there's something coming. Something's coming, and the aliens want us to survive.
Yeah, as it has been for the last, I guess, 6 people that they keep adding on this list, is much more interesting to me watching the narrative being built and what the purpose of that could be. And so I don't know. We'll see. It's like this little mystery hanging over right now that they shifted the narrative so hard. So we'll just have to keep watching. We'll see who's number 11 going to be. Should we start taking taking bets or something? Who's number?
I mean, there should be a poly market on how many added to the list before some kind of conclusion comes to this entire story.
They've literally added 1 person per episode since we reported on this the first time.
Over under on 33 being the number when they figure out what's going on.
Ooh, yeah. They have to. They could milk that for a while.
That's what I'm saying. They can take this a couple years and then, it's 2028 and then you get the anti-Trump Republican to release the documents, and it's like its own Epstein list, but it's instead of the Epstein list, it's the missing nuclear scientists and UFO researcher list, and the blackmail list going on. So
I don't like that and though. The and doesn't. I don't like it. I don't like the and. I don't.
Okay.
That's what I mean. Like
I don't like them moving the goalpost from UFO
No.
researchers to nuclear.
No.
I think I know why they're doing the nuclear stuff though, because that's
of
that's
course
a big
we
part
can
of
all
the
say,
energy.
like, yes, nuclears is related to UFOs, of course, but they're
Well,
not even
just that. No, I'm saying
UFOs.
yeah, but I think part of the nuclear stuff is also because of the new energy infrastructure.
Of course, we know why nuclear would be important, but why not say this guy was the UFO researcher, this guy was a nuclear scientist, this guy was connected to the UFO? Like, why cut out UFO altogether?
Oh yeah, in the story, yeah.
I mean, that's what I mean. Like, as we're watching the narrative, I'm not saying nuclear is like not important or something. I'm just saying it's just weird. It's weird how and why they're doing it.
It's gonna get to the point where just some guy goes missing.
Scientists. It's all scientists, and then it's a janitor.
Well, clearly this janitor was very important for national security reasons, Basil. I'm
They're
telling you.
making them sound like it. They certainly want us to think so.
Yeah, I mean, they were cleaning the toilets of all these top level secret guys, and usually they're the ones that can smuggle out samples, like waste samples for foreign adversaries or something. So you never know. Talk about sewer surveillance. Okay, well, I guess we're never going to know, or we're not going to know until they tell us.
For 11. 11 comes up next. We got to wait for 11. We're watching this narrative as spectators now.
Yep. Okay, well, let's there's a couple. I guess we can knock out a couple of these. I don't think we can take we'll take too much longer on some of this. Let's see. Oh, I guess we'll talk about the
Do you want to save the Apple thing for a
Yeah,
longer?
we can save the Apple. Oh, you mean Apple? Well, apples and oranges, you know? Maybe we can save the Royal Rumble thing for next time.
Well, I think your Apple thing's like that's like a much more in-depth thing, isn't it?
Yeah, sort of. I
It's up
guess.
to you if you want to try to get it in there. I was thinking, you know, I like to save my big long things for a time when we're not squeezed. But if you want to just do it quick, it's up to you.
I think we could just do it. Let's let me get it out of the system because that's how I roll.
Speaking of the beast system, beast system.
Apple, this is according to wired.com. Apple.me. Apple says southern Lebanon villages weren't removed from maps. It never had them. So this is let me just read a little bit here and we can get on with it. Apple says claims that villages and towns in southern Lebanon were removed from Apple Maps is incorrect because those locations were never featured on the service after online users accused the company of removing them during the ongoing conflict. So this goes back a little bit to the ceasefire where, you know, there was a ceasefire agreed upon and then Israel started to bomb and, you know, just shoot rockets at Lebanon. And that ended the ceasefire, even though it wasn't technically on the list of things for the ceasefire agreement. But it was around this time that people started sharing on X images of Apple Maps and the southern part of Lebanon and how it didn't show the names of the towns and villages of southern Lebanon. And so the narrative that was crafted was, hey, look at Apple is being complicit with Israel. They are removing the names of towns and cities of Lebanon. So that was sort of the take, okay? And then now Apple came out and basically said that that's not what's going on. So Wired Middle East checked Apple Maps and found that several locations cited in online criticism, including Bint Jabil and Aita Ash-Sha'ab, do not appear as labeled towns or villages on the map interface, including at closer zoom levels where nearby roads, businesses, and user-generated pins become visible. In some cases, local points of interest such as salons, restaurants, and street names appear before the town name itself. So Wired did their own little research to check, and sure enough, the towns don't appear. On Google Maps, the same locations appear as clearly labeled towns and villages at wider zoom levels. So, you know, Google good guys, Apple bad guys or something. I don't know. Apple says reports claiming certain Lebanese towns and villages were removed from Apple Maps is incorrect, adding that those locations had never been featured on the platform in the first place. The tech giant added that its newer, more detailed Apple Maps experience is not currently available there and has not yet launched in all markets globally. So there's already a little bit of a contradiction. So it's like, okay, if it never was there, that's already kind of bad in itself. It's already doesn't look right. But then to say that, oh, we have this new thing out and that part just hasn't been updated, we just don't have it there, it's a little suspicious in general. The absence of a prominent label does not necessarily mean a place has been removed. Digital mapping platforms commonly vary what appears depending on zoom level, interface design, language setting, data sources, and product rollouts. And so it says here that why isn't South Lebanon on the map? The comparison, however, raises further questions because Apple Maps shows detailed labels for cities and towns in Israel, including areas close to the border with Lebanon, while many locations in southern Lebanon do not appear at the same level of detail. Apple says the newer mapping experience is not currently available in that region, but did not specify whether it was referring to Lebanon specifically or a broader geographic area. And so they go into it. They ask some questions here. I don't think the details are as important as this last sentence in this Wired article. Apple says nothing was removed, but the episode shows a separate truth of digital infrastructure. When a place cannot be easily found, users may experience that absence as erasure, regardless of the technical explanation. So this gets into a deeper philosophical conversation about our digital footprint. And it harkens back to a story that I reference every so often that I read years ago. And what was the name of the story? I'm blanking on the name of the story. I'll pull it up in a second here. But basically, in the story, it's about this future time when they take this thing called smarticles. It's like the smart dust pill, and they are able to be in multiple places at once. Their physical body is doing just physical body things. They eat and they, go to the restroom and do that kind of thing. But their mind is traveling elsewhere in other cyber spaces and things. The Atopia Chronicles. It was written in 2012. And in the story, and this Matthew Mather, who's the author of the book, has written several books in that series, the Dystopia Chronicles and the Utopia Chronicles and Cyberstorm and all this. But in the story, the main characters, who are the wealthy elite, basically, who operate in this virtual reality realm, they think that there's this big storm coming from the oceans, and everybody's watching them freak out about it. But in reality, there's no storm. And so it, brings up the question of like, hey, how real is this digital reality, especially for people that believe what the digital world is offering them or showing them. Their behavior of going and having these political meetings and these rallies and all these different things was based on this false premise that there is a giant storm approaching the Atopia Island and we must act before it gets destroyed. And it's just a commentary on how the digital space, whether it's real or not, can affect our behavior. And I think this is a very prime example of this happening in real time, where just because Apple Maps doesn't show the names of these locations of the towns in southern Lebanon, it's creating this mass chaos, or at least, outrage online of people saying like, oh, this is Israel, or Apple being complicit with Israel in their agenda for expansion and all this kind of stuff. And it's very similar to Trump renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. In all of our Google Maps and all this pops up, it's Gulf of America now. And so, it's this sort of, it's a type of magic trick on its own. And maybe it is true that Apple is complicit with the modern nation state Israel and trying to psychologically prepare everyone for this expansion of the landmass of Israel for their greater Israel plan and agenda, which used to be conspiracy theory, but now it's not. The Israeli economists came out last week and basically said that that's what we're doing. We're trying to expand the landmass, which I have my own article that I'm trying to write for X that explains how there's no actual biblical precedent for that, because I've seen some folks use biblical passages to defend it. And for really being honest about that, it's not really the case. But I just wanted to bring the story to point out the fact that companies like Apple and their maps have such an effect on the mindset of an entire generation almost, just by not putting the names of the towns on the map. It's created all kinds of political upheaval and people getting really upset about it. I mean, there's not much anyone can do about it, but it goes to show how different the online experience is compared to real life experiences. We don't really know what's going on the ground there. But it also shows the effects of what a network state will become if what is digitally there is more real than the actual physical world of what's there. And, even like Pokemon Go seemed to have tapped into this, I guess, going back to the earlier conversations of cybernetic New World Order type of situation, where the collective is either upset or happy or whatever. Their mood is swung by a digital representation of the real world. And how much does that digital representation affect our political beliefs, or the way we vote, the way it's already happening? But I think this is a really interesting example of how maps can really affect the sentiment of a crowd. And based on where things are headed, I never thought, Basil, that like Apple Maps or Google Maps or something is going to be such a useful tool for the control of the psychological state of the masses. But it's proven to show that all you got to do is change up a few things, and you can create an uprising, almost like an entire rebellion. Just because certain towns don't show up on Apple Maps or something. So it's an interesting conversation, an interesting example of the power of the digital layer.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we've seen similar things when it comes to like China and Taiwan, these sorts of things, various American companies having to have special maps for depending where the service is being provided. Even I think Nepal had an issue with that too.
Yeah.
But it's interesting the sort of hidden unexpected responsibilities of these
The tech
these
companies.
tech companies and the ones with maps, because of course it's not just a map. It's not just a map. It
Right.
defines reality for who's ever using the map. And
Right.
so if you're in China and the map says Taiwan is Taiwan and not, I don't know, whatever the Chinese call it, extra China or something, then it's part of sort of controlling the hyper reality of everybody in there. And on a broad scale, apparently it's important enough that there's some pretty severe consequences for getting those maps wrong.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know if Apple's going to respond with anything tangible. I have no clue, but it's an interesting case for where we are in society when it comes to the power of these digital platforms. Okay, from apples to oranges.
CRISPR. Cas9.
Breaking. Florida is about to plant over 300,000 CRISPR gene-edited orange trees. Yay. Just reading from my post here, but this is a post from the citrus industry. Growers putting CRISPR trees into the ground. And I'll read the quote. I'll just read my commentary on it, and then just some quotes from the article itself. So the reason I made a post on this last week, and I said, here's why this is significant. CRISPR is often marked as non-GMO, which is technically correct, but they both fall under genetically engineered. So GMOs typically add foreign DNA in an attempt to improve, quote unquote, improve some aspect of the object being edited. CRISPR edits existing DNA, turning on or off genes that allow mutations in an attempt to improve the object being edited. So CRISPR can add foreign DNA, but it's not common yet. So this is apparently, as far as I understand, I kind of did the deep dive on this. And as far as I understand, current CRISPR editing is editing the genetic, like the DNA information that's already there. So they're not adding new stuff to the citrus trees here, or the orange trees. They're just editing certain parts of the existing DNA to try to prevent greening. So that's been part of the issue here, is the greening, and it's taken out all these orange trees. And so they are using CRISPR to try to mitigate some of that. And they're excited, they got a good amount of money, Basil. I was looking at their budget, and whoever's helping out the Florida citrus industry here, they're giving them quite a bit of money to get these CRISPR edited trees planted, 300,000 of them this year. And let's see, quote, "I can't wait to see what these trees look like," said Hall. Hall, I believe, is Stephen Hall, the executive director of Citrus Research and Field Trial Foundation called CRAFT. Ooh, CRAFT. Quote, "They look great in the test groves right now, but I want to see them in the real world and under commercial conditions to see what our growers can do with them." And then it says here, "It's the edge of the sword, trying to figure out what's working and what's not," Hall said. Quote, "These are the varieties that are newly released out of research institutions and others that have been designed to either be resistant or completely not impacted by HLB," which I believe is the issue they're having with the fruit. I forget what the acronym is there for. Quote, we're able to work with the growers and incentivize their participation in planting those trees so they can actually put them in the ground and see what they look like in real world conditions and know if they are truly the future of the Florida citrus industry. So again, you know, the GMO stuff is very unpopular nowadays. There's, you know, didn't Monsanto, did they lose the court case? I forget what happened to that court case. It was recent, was it not? Like, wasn't it last year there was some court stuff going on with them? Do you recall the latest on the Monsanto
I'm not sure what you're talking
cases?
about.
Okay, I thought there was some stuff going on last year, but in any case, GMO is incredibly unpopular. There is a label now for a lot of foods. If you go to your grocery stores and stuff, you'll see non-GMO labeled there. But soon we might have to, if we want to get ahead of it, we will have to do some non-CRISPR labeling type of standards, because again, CRISPR edits existing genes or DNA. GMO is adding foreign DNA. And so what do you think, Basil? Do you think this is, you know, the CRISPR edited oranges? Do you think it's okay? We're protecting the crops. You know, we're just trying to keep the orange, I don't know, the growing of oranges in Florida. We want to keep it going. The Sunshine State needs its oranges. We need to be the state to lead the charge in CRISPR orange or orange preservation or citrus preservation. But, you know, we're going to use some editing technology. I don't know. It just seems like everything is headed this way anyway. So, and it's so interesting to me that, hey, the climate, the geoengineering has caused who knows what kind of effects on our climate. And so now we need CRISPR gene editing to fight against the geoengineered climate to maintain our crops. I mean, it's just all kind of comes together, does it not?
Yes, you've been very thorough here. Yeah, he like asked me a question and then didn't stop talking. I didn't know. It was a fake question.
It's a fake question. I faked you out.
Well, what it shows to me is, because this is obviously not new. We've been talking about this at least since the beginning of COVID, when everybody learned about Bill Gates's desires to vaccinate plants and things like that. And, when CRISPR really hit the scene on sort of the public level. I mean, the sad and scary thing is, even after everybody learned about it, and, you know, everybody, even when we got RFK into the thing, and whoever's head of the FDA got to there, that it's just still moving forward. Like, it doesn't matter how many people online, whatever, started outcrying, or how much public attention that it got. It's obviously still moving forward. Very similarly, I saw that Bill Gates's quantum dot thing is still moving forward too.
Oh wow!
So we're kind of getting a few of these stories where, yeah, you know, when it was COVID and everybody was listening to podcasts and everybody was learning about mRNA and CRISPR and quantum dot, you know, this was a whole thing. But all that public outcry really did was just stall it until people stopped paying attention again.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good example for lots of things, from CBDCs to this to that. Doesn't, you know, there can be this giant outcry, but then the economy gets a little worse. People get a little distracted. People go back to work. They got to take care of their lives. And that's the perfect timing for vaccinating the plants and CRISPR oranges and quantum dot tattoos coming back. It just shows kind of at least the perceived inevitability of these giant sort of evil forces moving across the face of the earth.
Yep. CRISPR cows, CRISPR oranges, everything's going to be crispy in the near future. Let's land this. I mean, I'm looking at the time. It's not like the longest episode today. We're not even at 3 hours yet. But let's do this, because this is
You can keep going if you want. My foot's starting to hurt, so I gotta go put my foot up. But if you want to keep going, you can do that.
This is the United States of America, for God's sake.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Corn Pop's son is up to something.
We will hunt you down and make you pay.
Hunt. Speaking of hunting, Reuters.com with the headline, Ready to Rumble? Hunter Biden challenges Trump's son to sons to cage match. The kayfabe is going from philosophy to reality, Basil. Let's we'll listen to this clip of Hunter Biden talking about this.
Hunter Biden here. I just got a call from Andrew Callahan. He asked me to come out on the Channel 5 Carnival tour at the end of the month. I think we start in Phoenix and then we go to San Diego and we end in Albuquerque. And I think he's trying to organize a cage match, me versus Eric and Don Jr. I told him I'd do it, 100% in, if he can pull it off. And if he can't, I'm still coming.
Okay. All right. It says here, America could see its first of its kind fight as they prepare to celebrate the country's 250th independence. A cage match between the sons of a sitting U.S. president and the son of a former president. The improbable possibility arose on Thursday when Hunter Biden, we know who he is, challenged Republican President Donald Trump's eldest sons, Don Jr. and Eric, to a fight. Really a fight. I don't know if a cage match is a real fight. It's not like an MMA fight, this is a cage match. Biden said he got a call from the left-wing social media commentator. Okay, we already know about all that. What do you think, Basil? Is this
I don't know. I was hoping you'd read and they'd have some details. You keep saying it's a cage fight, it's not really fighting, but there's MMA cage fights.
Okay. It's unclear if or when this match would happen. The White House plans to host a similar event, but with actual UFC fighters on June 14th. Did you see the AI mock-up of the ring, the octagon in front of the White House? It looked pretty epic there. Biden became president. Yes, we know about that. The threatened match between their sons has echoes of a proposed 2023 cage match between tech titans Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, though that never took place.
Has it really already been 3 years since that? That seems like it was just yesterday.
I know. Earlier eras of American politics saw bloody political face-offs, notably the 1804 duel between Vice President Aaron Burr and former Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton, which resulted in the former Treasury Secretary's death and effectively ended Burr's political career. Really, Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton is the only reference they have here. And then there's a parenthesis. The story has been corrected to fix the description of commentator Andrew Callahan to left-wing, not conservative, in paragraph 3. All right. Good job, Reuters. Staying true to the political paradigm here. Yeah, we're not getting a whole lot of information here. I don't know. If it's a 2 against 1, I would imagine the Trump kids would take out the Hunter guy.
Well, Hunter, when somebody really gets on some good meth, they can get the strength of 2 men.
I was going to say that's the only way out. The meth rage might overpower both of them. But I think if they do this, it is obviously a money grab, and it will be a sad moment for America. The rest of the world will look at
this. Kind of fits where we've been. I mean, it's like straight out of Idiocracy.
That's what I'm saying, man.
I think if the philosophical kayfabe, I think, is kind of what we're watching here. Of course, kayfabe being the name for the suspension of disbelief experienced by WWE fans. It's this sort of conscious suspension of disbelief where you choose to believe the drama and that they really hate each other and want to fight each other, and just like the storyline, I mean, accurately depicts, I think, what we see a lot with fifth generation warfare. It's a lot of politics is kayfabe. At least in its most cynical form. I wish there's more information behind this. I doubt that they're gonna fight. I doubt that this is a real thing, but it's something for the podcasters to talk about, Gonz.
There we go. I'm getting God Rules. A guy over there, God Rules, posted under one of our tweets here, and he said that the image of the
demon. Good. I'm glad he found that. I was trying to look for that earlier. I couldn't find it.
Yeah, It's from a book. It says here. I'm trying to find the actual thing here, but yeah, it's from a book of some kind. And yeah, you
Yeah,
can see
somebody
clearly
found
see
it
the
on
three
Reddit.
head.
There was
Yeah.
a book called The Last Pull, and the cover of that book has the shape of that sort of demon guy. On the
I guess
book,
it's
it
his back.
looks like it's the head of like a devil, like a Baphomet kind of thing, because it's got wings coming off the side of it. Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's a weird shape. That's the weird
That
thing.
is
So
weird. Yeah, it is a
if
weird
this
shape.
is true and it came from some book on Reddit called The Last Pull, the cover of the book, how and why did it get put on the image that Trump posted? You know, it's so weird.
The Last Pull, The Last President from Anderson Lockwood. You know, a lot of last things. They're really trying to manufacture the last of days, it appears.
Somebody is.
Yeah,
Yeah, I bet somebody just sent him that. Maybe they tried to set him up, or maybe how would Trump did not go on Reddit, find the last poll.
that one right there. Put him behind me. The
Yeah,
doctor needs a demon king.
I think somebody set that up. I don't know exactly what's going on, or he just saw it on Truth Social. You know, he's just scrolling on the toilet, sees the
That
picture
right
he
there.
likes, and
Yeah,
just
yeah.
posts it or something.
Yeah, Elon Musk is tweeting California legislators are trying to make investigating fraud illegal. Great. That's just wonderful.
It's the
Glad that
Stop
they're
Nick
trying.
Shirley Act.
Yes, that's called. They actually called it that. Wow,
It's
it is
like their
called Stop
nickname
Nick
for it.
Shirley Act. Wow. Okay. Wow. All right. Well,
Yeah, that's
okay.
California for you.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Did we get any art? Did you happen to check the art and bring
We
any art?
did. We did get. We got something from. I think we did the
Ianon?
That was last week. We got something from Little Owen. This is a music track, I believe.
Oh, that came in on the 9th.
But yeah,
it's Thursday. We haven't.
Oh,
so we haven't
shown it. Okay, so let me do that real quick. Oh, you know what? I did. The reason why I thought I saw this was because somebody shared this with me already. So okay, let's let me pull that stuff up. Do you want to go through and talk about?
Yeah.
How
As soon as
people
you're
produce the
done
show?
walking us through your process here. Yep, folks, there's lots of ways to produce the show. The artists, musicians, if you have a talent that you want to lend to the show, we have years and years of incredible art from artists just like you. We use them for things, all sorts of things, but if nothing else, we love to feature it on the show. If you're a musician, you can create music for the show, about the show, jingles for the show, about the show. Or if you're more of a visual artist, you can create something that comes to you, send it in, just go to canarycry.art where you can upload the art there, puts it on our nice little spreadsheet. We can get it on the show. The artists, that's another thing that's really slowed down lately. It slowed down even more, the most once AI art became sufficient, but Ianon is always at it with the pencil, hand drawn, and this one is very cute. It says Basil and Son, and there is I love the flowing hair on the Basil rendition here. It's beautiful. Wearing a sweatshirt that says I am Basil, standing there looking up to the sky. I've got the googly-eyed VR headset in one hand, and down on the ground there's a cute little baby emu wearing a great tank top, and the tank top says, "If lost, return to Basil." They're growing up so fast, Gonz. My first born son, who's about a month and a half now, he's so tall that he can see over the sort of crate area that I have for him. It's about time for him to move outside. He's going to have to graduate to living out in the pen outside. I can hardly contain him anymore.
That's amazing.
Although I'd love to see just how tall of an emu I can have living inside just for as long as possible.
What's the average height of an emu?
They're about 6 feet when they stand up straight. They're about 6 feet tall.
Okay. It's still pretty tall for an animal.
How
much do they weigh?
Second tallest bird. No, I've never weighed them. My guess, I've had to pick up the adults once or twice, and I'd guess maybe 100, maybe a little over 100 pounds. But it's all muscle, baby. They can really mess you up if you get the wrong side of their kick. Very sort of sinewy. But yeah.
Okay. Good.
Thank you very much, Ianon. Actually, she sent that in on Thursday for says today's call-in show, but I do not check the art for Thursdays. Maybe I should start checking the art for Thursdays. Thank you very much, Ianon. Beautifully done.
Thank you. We also got a piece of music called Rumors of Wars from Little Owen. And we're at the end of the show, so just hang tight. You'll hear the whole thing. It's based off of Matthew 24, 4-7. So we'll play that at the end of the show.
Beautiful. Can't wait to hear that. Sir Little Owen, thank you very much.
Yep.
Let's see here. I'm trying to think. Just remember the TOEFL challenge is still going on. I know it's tax season. I hope the Lord blesses all of you this tax season with everything you deserve. Or the grace for the things you don't know, the mercy for the things that you don't deserve. Both of those. And when the time comes, feel free to produce the show with your time, your talent, your treasure. We got some people who help us out with their time. Namely, I want to thank the timestampers.
The timestampers jingle is coming right now.
Timestamp, it's hard work. Timestamp.
And we have Jade Bouncerson to thank for doing the timestamps for episode 930.
Thank you, Jade Bouncerson, for that. And of course, a big old shout out to Jam, who's sent some great links, but he also heads up the Telegram channel. Adam42 heads up the Discord channel. If you want to get connected, which I recommend you do, find your place with some other Canarians on the Telegram or the Discord channel. Go to canarycry.party. You'll see the invite links for those there. Big shout out to Joe for all your feedback. Thank you. Thank you to Clank for clanking. And of course, Sir Ike for making it all happen behind the scenes. And to you, dear listener, for sharing the show. Share the show with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with your trippy uncle and neighbor. They're going to like it. But we call it rattling cages. All you got to do is walk right up to them, grab by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
Every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Gonz, you got any last words?
Go get some Cage Rattler coffee. I have a pack right here. You guys smell it? It smells so good.
So good.
Delicious. Yes. That's my last word today.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. That'll do it. Sit tight. We're going to be back on Wednesday with another episode. Hold on tight because the ride's going to keep getting bumpier and bumpier. Just remember, things aren't what they seem, folks. And thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.
Goodbye.
I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!
Taking and no man deceive you. Many shall come in my name, said I am Christ, and shall deceive many. He shall hear of wars, rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. A nation shall rise against nation, a kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet.
He's got the solutions for the problems that he created. So step right up for the great reset. For the great reset. Hiding in the shadows, he's always behind the scenes. He's pulling on the first string. He's got control of everything. He's got the solutions to the problems that he created. So sit right up for the great reset. For the great reset. He serves his master with fervor. He's a Luciferian. He's bound up and determined to bring us to an end. It's the final solution. Destroy the human race. So walk right up to the great reset. To the great reset. For the great reset. There's only one way out through the door, but you'll need the code. 10, 5, 19, 21, 19. Or you can step right up for the great reset. For the great reset. For the great reset. For the great reset.
We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.
Bye. I'm out of here. Bye.
Canary Cry, not supposed